Welcome, everyone, to another day of the Overwatch Carbon Series, and these days are quickly becoming to a close as we are going to be going into the playoffs. They're just days away as we're going into week number 5. But before we get into that, how are we doing today, gentlemen?
Doing very good. We spent our weekend away from casting Overwatch. I think you were there, unless it was a fever dreams.
I was there.
Yeah, all right.
So, and some of you may have also been there as you were watching from the safety of your homes. But let's talk a little bit about what happened there. I don't want to dive too deep, but we did see a couple of our OCS teams there. Did we learn anything new about them?
What we learned is that Immortals, we took a look at their last matchup that they had versus Renegades, and we were wondering, where does Immortals stand here? Was this Renegades having a bad day or Immortals fixing some of their issues? And based on Immortals' performance, they came out far stronger in the Overwatch Monthly Melee than I think we've seen them in many weeks of Carbon play. So I think, for me, that's the biggest takeaway here, is that Immortals has clearly fixed some of the issues that have been plaguing them, and perhaps are starting to resemble the more front-running team that we thought they would be in the very beginning.
On the other side of things, LG Evil also played, and there is some worrying signs about them. They went 0-3 in groups on day one. They did seem to flip the switch and turn it on, and I am musing about if they are flipping the switch or if teams are figuring them out. We talked about the idea a little bit of game tape yesterday, and now it's time where there's a lot of game tape on this LG Evil team. Some teams are playing differently against them than before, so they've looked mortal, if you will.
Yes, and Immortals, they're looking to gun them down here as the middle of the pack is very close. None of them are really going to reach LG Evil status as they've already got 8 wins in this event. But it certainly gives credence to having some more consistency, which is what the OCS was all about, is getting consistent matches, because when you have one-offs, especially when some teams have game tape on other teams, it's hard to guess exactly what's going to happen, and it's part of the excitement as well. But before we go into today's games, because we've got some more exciting Overwatch yet to be played, let's take a look at the results of before the OMM. Harken back to that time, last Wednesday's matches, as that was the end of week 4.
Agilities takes out Sherlocky too. They're swinging this back over as Grim comes in. Earthshatter goes down, does not take all that much over.
That is a big Earthshatter by Nomi. Knocks down 3, and 3 kills result immediately from it. 5 kills here from Immortals. He's going for cleanup. Has 1, gets 2, and this is a very effective Dragon Blade here so far. Going to end up with 3 before it's all said and done. So though they're down Nomi, Graviton comes in, pulls in 3. All just going to be very casual fall through, and the world's least eventful team wipe. This is huge. Grim Reality taking down 4. The setup is big. Make it 5. Even gets the final hook on the Jer. Oh. Look at that. Yes. Reinhardt removal service.
Nicholas will get out.
Wow. The Graviton surges out. Here comes the Transcends, keeping everyone alive. A flawless fight here for Complexity so far.
Well, they're spread out. The Dragon Blade comes in. They boost the May of all things.
All right, that is one super Ice Queen. And hey, it's going to be treating Ube to the Arctic experience, I suppose. He's saying he's got them in his sights, and he gets stuck in the Graviton. That's not good. Pulse Bomb in. Big Bang connects. Still, though, the defensive Graviton comes in. Clearly, giving Complexity a second chance to bring it back. Ube, though, perhaps slamming the door, or in this case, slamming the blade into Complexity. Ube causing chaos in the back. Good cut through D.Va's mech armor, and LG Loyal going to defend against Complexity here on Gibraltar. Nesh, Dragon Blade out. Takes D.Va out of her mech, gonna take him out fully. 3 kills here from Complexity, and this is looking far better for them, and yet Ube's still around. Hexy can build up a Dragon Blade here mid-fight. It gets another! He is doing so much work in the back line. I gotta say, credit where credit is due for Nesh for going in. Wait, standard delay coming in, not quite enough. Trying to deal with the Tracer play coming out. He's gonna get blown right up. It's a nice pulse bomb coming out from Nesh. Complexity just needing a little bit more. And they're gonna get it. Overtime fades.
Well, after watching some of those plays, I really just want to start talking about Immortals and Grim Reality because they were filling the feed, but I have to hold back because we have a few more things to go over. And the first thing is I want to take a look at the standings. We're days away from the playoffs, and there are a lot of implications on the line. Both LG Evil and Renegades have secured their spot in the playoffs, but what they haven't secured, or at least Renegades in this case, has not secured their spot in second. In fact, with that middle of pack being so close, technically, Renegades could come out of this in 4th place. They have secured their spot, but none of these teams want to face LG Evil. Or maybe I should ask, do these teams want to face off against LG Evil in the finals?
I think it's possible that Immortals is feeling okay against LG Evil, better than they had before in the previous weeks anyway. They did splitting sets over the weekend, as Immortals was one of the few teams in recent memory who's been able to beat LG Evil. So it's not quite the daunting task for them. Renegades, I need to see them bounce back a little bit before I really know where they want to be at. But I think for complexity, for sure, you want to stay out of that 4th spot.
Well, you go to this idea of teams being figured out, and you look at our 2 frontrunners right now in the OCS between LG Evil and Renegades. There's definitely question marks here. I think you could look to LG Evil and wonder what their shot calling has been in recent times, where I think it's really been more muddled than it has been. And even games or series that they've won, where they're still 8-0 here in the Carbon Series, they came very close to dropping a series against LG Loyal. They've been far less consistent, which means that from the outside looking in, you look at that team and go, they're more beatable. Meanwhile, you look at Renegades, I do think that there are some clear flaws with the team, particularly when you're able to force them off fairer compositions. So if teams are being smart about their game planning here, they should be looking at Renegades as a very beatable team, despite the impressive record they've put in so far.
Yeah, and one question that's been on our minds is how much of this is teams figuring out LG Evil, and so the challenge, the gauntlet thrown down for them is for them to show that they are adaptable, because they've shown a lot of different team compositions and strategies, but how can they adapt to other teams bringing new things against them? And they're going to have to do it this week. They're going to have to do it, in fact, today against the Renegades, and that is going to be a very important matchup, which leads me right into the schedule. Let's take a look at this week's schedule in general. Of course, tonight we've got LG Loyal versus Immortals, as LG Loyal is going to be trying to play upset against Immortals, pull them down a peg. Renegades will be facing up against LG Evil in a rematch of last week, and that actually went to a best of 5. And Renegades, as you'd mentioned, they still have to show something, especially after their recent performance against Immortals. Later on in the week, we'll watch Team Liquid face off against LG Loyal. They will also be playing on Wednesday against LG Evil. They have to win both of those games for any chance at getting in. A lot has to happen for Liquid to have a chance to get into the playoffs, but technically they're still in. And then, of course, we've got Complexity versus Renegades, and closing us out for the week, it's going to be Complexities versus Immortals, which, depending on how this week goes, could be a deciding match to close out the week and then going into the playoffs, which will be this weekend. Taking a look at the schedule, what are the matches that really stand out to you guys?
Well, I think anything relating to Team Liquid, because Team Liquid, in theory, can win the matches that are coming out to them. I think them beating LG Evil is going to be a task, but not as insurmountable as it might have been if you look earlier on in the series. Conversely, you take a look at Complexity. Complexity needs to win one of those games to be in control of their own destiny and make sure that they get into the playoffs. I don't know if Complexity is going to be able to do that, because Complexity has been all over the place. Sometimes have been good, sometimes have been bad, but the roster instability has very much led to different Complexity teams showing up from day to day, and that is not an easy schedule to finish out week 5, so it's not super likely. If I had to put a percentage to it, I'd say 25% at best, but there's still a chance that Team Liquid actually finds a way back in here and Complexity falls out. Don't think it's going to happen, but the potential is certainly there.
For Complexity, who will very likely make the playoffs out of all things, and they seem to be on a path for the 4th spot right now, I think they need to use these next couple of games to run the same roster that they've been running, hopefully, or if not, solidify some sort of roster. You don't want to be going into the playoffs, very likely against LG Evil, with another brand new roster. It seems like every week they're replacing tanks, and that's just too difficult to overcome. Also, for me, going into this next match as well, LG Loyal is out of it for the most part. I think actually mathematically...
They are mathematically out of it, yeah.
And the perception is reality with LG Loyal, that they're perceived as not being a very good team. The silver lining there is that in Overwatch, things move very, very quickly. If they put together 2 good sets, then the perception will be LG Loyal just had some bad draws, aren't able to finish matches. They're up and coming and they could beat someone. That's how quickly things can turn around. So I don't like the term playing for pride, but they're playing for reputation.
Heck, directly to your point, I mean, we have a great example to throw that in there. Take a look at Selfless. Selfless was, up until the last month or so, really a tier 3, arguably tier 4 Western team. They were getting invited to events for a while. They did absolutely nothing. They really just, they were there. They weren't a team that anyone was really hyped about. They make a few roster changes. They add on Sinatra. They add on DeFran in particular. And suddenly Selfless has rocketed to the top of the NA spectrum. So for Overwatch, even though a team might be middling for a long time, and a lot of teams don't get out of that, some teams can make that one key roster change that does let them suddenly ascend and be very relevant again.
Well, they're going to be playing for pride a little bit this game. They're also going to be playing in our first matchup of the day, LG Loyal versus Immortals, to try to upset Immortals, who are 4-4 right now, and they are grasping at that third and second place spot rather. And this is one game on their path toward that. Coming into this one, any expectations? We've talked a little bit about these teams. Earlier in the season, LG Loyal was able to pick up what was at the time considered an upset victory. Looking back, neither of these teams were playing very strong at that time. But over the course of the season, what have we seen from these two teams coming into this match?
Well, coming into this match, of course, you take a look at LG Loyal, who we were just talking about this entire time. I mean, it's a team where their entire story has been they've been able to play teams close, but they haven't been able to get any sort of victory from it. And at the end, there's this sort of idea that, oh, let's give them a little bit of credit. I don't even want to give them that credit. I want to say that they've been losing in games they should be winning. And at some point, you can't go, well, it's partial credit, you're doing well. No, at some point, you have to find a way to put together a complete series of Overwatch and a best of 5 and outdo the opponents you're playing. And then you take a look at who they're up against here in Immortals, and, well, that's troubling because of how strong Immortals has been in recent times. I feel like Immortals is going to do very well this week. We'll see, but it does feel like they're on a big upswing.
For LG Loyal, just to say to those points, you need to stabilize this roster, and I think a lot of that is on the line again. I can't say enough about how high the stakes are individually for some of these players. You brought in Flippy, who's played pretty well. He brings that Widow game that they needed. You brought in Reels, who's also taken over shot calling, and to me, that's been one of their biggest weaknesses. LG Loyal needs to find a way to do these three things. You have to be able to finish fights. Been a big problem for them since even our prep for this tournament. Then you finish maps, and then you finish sets. And they all lead into another, and that can be directly back to shot calling, because target acquisition, target selection, and target finishing has been a weak point for this team for a while. Rios has had a week now on this team, and now this is the week where he either locks in his roster spot or they make more changes.
Well, what I understand from just talking to players on LG Loyal here and there and trying to get an idea for how their shot calling works, they do have multiple players that will offer their opinion on it, and I'm not going to put anyone on blast for who did it, but there was one player that you wouldn't normally expect to be doing shot calling that made the call in Temple Anubis to do their crazy forward hold when they probably would have held just fine if they were back in.
Right.
So it doesn't feel like right now they have everything completely locked down in regards to who's calling what for shot calling. If there's any upside to note is that since the departures of Icefelt and Mineral, it does feel like LG Loyal has locked down roles a little bit more than what it was. You don't have the constant switch-ups between Icefelt and Ube that made really no logical sense when you took it in totality. So perhaps they're locking down a few things, but to have to prove your worth here in the final week to play spoiler and then go up against Immortals, well, that's difficult.
Well, talking about LG Loyal, let's take a look at their roster coming in here. We talk about different roles being fulfilled, and I definitely feel like this roster is filling out a lot nicer than they have in the past. As far as I have a pretty good idea who we're going to see on which heroes in the last couple of weeks. But of course, we've got Flippy, the newest member of this roster, alongside Reels, and then the core center for their Ube, Spree, Super Pluke, and Hidan. And we talked a little bit about Reels and Flippy, but I just want to revisit that real quick. So how have we seen Flippy contribute? Is it just on the Widow? And how has that changed versus who he's been replacing?
Well, the Widow helps a lot for assault maps in particular is where Flippy's running. He's also even running on King's Row, and I think Widow can be super impactful. He also has had decent games on other hit scan heroes as well. I think they put him on 76. He's generally taking over some of those Icefelt roles on occasion, as Ube will not run those heroes generally, and Spree can play whatever, but generally he's running those hit scans. He's had a couple good games on Tracer. It's been nothing mind-blowing yet, but again, the tape is so limited, it's hard to say. I do think if you're only wanting a Widow specialist who can, at certain points in time, flex onto different hit scans, then Flippy might be your guy.
Well, the bigger thing I'd say for Flippy here is that unlike Icefelt, who would just disappear for entire fights or maps at a time, he's had a higher baseline level of consistency where his bad games are not quite as bad, which means that there's more time for other members on LG Loyal to have better games. We saw very good stuff coming out of Spree, as usual, who has been more the rock of the team, but I just feel overall he's less streaky than Icefelt was, and that's given LG Loyal a little bit of a bump, especially when you go into the idea of, well, they're having trouble finishing out fights. If you have a DPS that for whatever reason is not doing anything, that's going to contribute. So if nothing else, that extra level consistency from Flippy has been good. I wouldn't say that he's been blowing things out of the water in his LG Loyal edition either, though.
Yeah, but there is something to be said for literally just being confident in the players that are around you. And if you're Spree, if you're Ube, who have had high, low moments and low moments throughout this event, they've been having a little bit more on the high side lately, and I think that has to be because they at least believe in Flippy to some extent to not let them down. Ube is going to be our player to watch actually coming into this one. We talk about Flippy, we talk about Spree. What is the evolution we've seen from Ube from the start of the season now coming into week 5?
I mean, the evolution for Ube, at least in recent times, that we've been seeing him more on Genji, perhaps getting more done on the Genji. But one thing that has been an interesting development in Overwatch for me is that we've been seeing this idea of players that have been trying to flex to too many things at once. And I think there is an argument to be made that you do have to narrow your hero pool somewhat. You need to be somewhat flexible, but in Ube's case, he was so over the map that I don't know if you can generate a super top tier Genji when you're trying to play different tanks, other different hit scan DPS, and all the rest at the same time. Some players have pulled it off, but it's pretty rare. Even when you take a look at a player like Shadowburn, for example, you can make a very distinct argument that his Genji had a drop-off when he was doing more Diva, more things like Roadhog randomly, whatever it may be. And then you compare it to recently in the last OMM where he was more on Genji overall. He was looking more like himself. So for Ube, the part where it feels like he's been focusing more on his Genji play has seemingly resulted in better results for him thus far.
It's interesting you bring up Shadowburn because I don't think Ube is Shadowburn in regards to his Genji play. And I think I would put him on a very specific plan on how and when to play Genji. You play Genji in very specific situations. Assault last, always run Genji. I think you and I agree that you almost have to run it in this kind of style of play. And then on vertical maps, definitely start off with Genji. However, if your Genji isn't being the world-beating Genji, which it can be sometimes, you never know what's going to come out, but if your Genji can't shut down their other Genji, then I think it's time for him to switch to Roadhog, because he can be just as impactful, not running his Genji, but shutting down the other team's Genji. He hits hooks. He hits everything he needs to be. So I would just baseline it on, I'm going to run Genji in these situations, but if it's not this amazing Genji, I'm going to get off of it on Roadhog and making that switch quickly.
Well, you take a look at how it can punish a team if you don't get off the Genji in those situations. I mean, look no further than what we saw from Fnatic in the last weekend, where we saw half equal on Genji, just coming up with maybe 1 kill per Dragon Blade, and it hurt Fnatic horrifically that you didn't get that production. So cutting your losses and realizing that, hey, this isn't working, very important.
Well, and coming into this matchup, he's playing against someone who we just saw in the kill feed quite a bit as Genji and Agilities. And he actually plays a similar role because he's that one that goes onto the Roadhog. We have seen Grim Reality on Roadhog if they want to empower that Genji for Agilities. But how are we matching up here? Well, actually, before we answer that question, let's actually just take a look at the Immortals roster as we're going to be coming to this one. It is going to be Grim Reality and Agilities, the ones we're expecting to be on damage the most. Hyped has flexed into that role a little bit, but I think we all agree we kind of like to see him in that tank role more often than not. Nami going to be that main tank, Ethan and Verbo rounding us out in the support roles. But what are we expecting in this Agilities versus Ube matchup potentially?
Well, Agilities was probably the reason that they beat Renegades. Actually, factually, he was the reason that they beat Renegades, and Renegades would tell you that as well. We were always waiting for Agilities to step up because we know he's capable of this. We know his Genji can be great. We know his Roadhog can be great. And he can roll on either of those equally, and that gives Grim so much space, and it lets everyone else be good as well.
But sometimes for me, I do like looking at the whole picture here. I will agree, Agilities had a better game, but how much of that was because Nomi wasn't getting bopped 3 seconds into a team fight? Nomi was far more conservative and disciplined in this tank play, thus wasn't dying early on, thus Agilities had more room to get things done. Similarly, I think Hyped had a much better series as well. So for Immortals, you can give credit to Agility for having a better game, which he certainly did. However, I think the bigger story on Immortals is that whatever it may be that was going on in coaching behind the scenes really did increase the caliber of their tank play coming in, which did enable Grim and Agilities to have better opportunities.
And it's all those dominoes, right? Because when Hyped is playing, Nomi is able to stay alive because Hyped is on the Zarya and it plays more into Nomi's style, and then it gives everyone more space. So it is kind of, you take one of those pieces away, everything can fall apart. Immortal is definitely hitting on all cylinders right now, though.
And our play to watch is actually Hyped for that reason, because we talk about Grim, we talk about Agilities, and honestly, they've been contributing at a very high level with fair amount of consistency. The thing that's been difficult is, well, is Grim dying early? Are they getting enough damage off to give that Genji value? And this team has been playing so strong, honestly, when Hyped is on, when he's playing that Zarya, when he's playing that Diva, and able to contribute to the team and not just do his own thing. And it's been a little bit of an adjustment for him. And by the way, so we've got him down as the third leg, and that's not supposed to be, that's like the stool
Say
metaphor.
No more.
Like a stool, a three-legged stool is going to fall down without that third leg. And this team, they're going to rely on Hyped to step it up here in order to
It's a tripod reference. Totally get it.
Yeah.
The tripod. I completely understand. To your point, and about Hyped, is maybe his pool is too deep because he's been trying to play 4 to 5 different heroes, and his Pharah was lackluster, to say the best. He just didn't play with the confidence that you need to play with Pharah. His Tracer had one good life, I think, out of the 10 or so we've seen. That was an amazing life that he had. But his Diva and Zarya are great, and I think that he got a little bit back to his roots, and those are the heroes he spent the most time on.
They are great. However, going forward, Immortals, they can certainly win games with this configuration. I don't know if it's ideal in the longer term because, as we saw in the last monthly Melee, there's something to be said for having a very much shut down, dominant, oppressive 3 DPS lineup. And thus far, that if there's a knock on hype right now, is that his DPS options are not as convincing as what he runs on tanks. So that means for Immortals, for any given game right now, they are going to have a better win percentage if you have hyped on D.Va or Zarya. But you're also not tapping into what people have been finding to be very successful in teams like Rogue and Selfless with just unfettered aggression, having the option to really flex in. And I don't know, we'll see. Rogue in particular set a very nice blueprint with that. So I do think it would be good for teams if they could leave that option available.
Another option that hasn't been available to Immortals, and they I think actually Hyped played it in week 1 in the time that they actually lost against this LG Loyal squad, is a Pharah. They're one of the few teams that hasn't really brought a strong Pharah to the game, and even the teams that we haven't attributed to having strong Pharahs have really stepped up on that. Well, we're gonna have to see how that plays out. Immortals is the home team though, so I want to go into the map. It is going to be Eichenwald, and this has been their choice throughout this event. But what else do you have to say about map selection here for Immortals there, Hex?
I think Eichenwald makes a bunch of sense. It's the map that we're now associating with them as far as these hybrid maps go. It's one that they've always liked, even when it was very rarely played. Going forward, I think Anubis would probably be maybe their next pick, but they've not shown all this greatness really across the board. Their map score is pretty even, actually, despite they're 4-4 overall in matches, but I think they're 12-14 on maps with 2 ties.
The best way of describing Immortals' season thus far would be, in one word, unremarkable. They're about as middle of the pack as you get, which is still a fall from grace given where we thought they would be after they had won tournaments like the Winter Premier, came in here as a big front runner. It's been a proving ground for them. But if you do take a look at how things transpired last week, if you take a look at how things transpired in the weekend, they might be reclaiming some of their former glory. So I'm cautiously optimistic for Immortals heading into this matchup.
You just have to make the show. You just have to make the big dance, get into the playoffs, and then you also want to be peaking at the right time. I mean, you look at other sports, you can get to the playoffs at 8-8, 9-7, and you can win the Super Bowl.
Well, Hex, let's go a little bit deeper here and say this. For Immortals, is just winning the series in, say, a 3-1 fashion acceptable? Or do you think if you want to make a statement going forward that against a team like LG Loyal, they should be able to take this in a 3-0.
No one's really sweeping LG Loyal, though, despite their record. Despite their record. So I would take 3-1. You definitely don't want to go to 5. I think for Immortals, just on a personal level, you want to end this as quickly as possible because it still has to sting the reverse sweep that happened early on that kind of set the tone for Immortals' downfall going through.
Yes, and honestly, the big thing about this middle of the pack, we talk about coming in at the right time. Immortals may be doing that right now. As Complexity, they had a really good, strong middle showing. We're going to see them tomorrow, but right now it's all about Immortals and LG Loyal. And as we're coming into this match, I do want to introduce something for our fans that is going to be new. We're going to be doing this throughout the rest of the event, and that is if you are on the Tweetoverse, make sure that as you're watching the games, if you have any standout plays that you just love, that you want the world to see, go ahead and tweet at Game Carbon with the hashtag OCS Plays with what play you think really deserves to be shown, and you'll be entered in an possibility of getting a nice little swag bag with a bunch of cool stuff from Blizzard that we were all like oogling over because we wanted it, but we're going to give it to you. And then you'll also be featured on stream later on in the match. Once again, tweet at Game Carbon with the hashtag OCS Plays for your shot at the goodies. We're going into Eichenwald, gentlemen. Take it away.
Well, just to add on to that here, and just so you guys know that your vote does matter, is that unfortunately, the U.S. government did look into Watchpoint Gibraltar, and Winston has finally been kicked out for squatting there. So we have a bunch of Winstons here that need new homes. Please give him your love.
The big question I have is, are we ineligible for that? Because I don't think it's written down anywhere that we cannot participate in that contest.
I would guess we're ineligible just on honor alone, but hey, if you grab a Winston, if you kidnap a Winston on the way out of the studio here tonight, Hex, I will absolutely rat you out.
I like that you say on honor alone as if that means anything to me at all. Regardless, we're going to head into Eichenwald, which will be our first map of the evening here in the OCS. Renegades will be playing the defense first. A lot on the line for them. And Immortals here, that can't be the right overlay. That is the incorrect overlay. Regardless, sorry guys. LG Loyal will be on the defense here. Those names are definitely LG Loyal. Immortals is going to be on the attack. So LG Loyal, a lot to play for here out of the playoffs. But as I said, the perception of a team can change so quickly in Overwatch that if they start putting some wins together, they can reclaim their former glory.
And for LG Loyal, this is going to be a very tank-heavy defense here where it's going to be Flippy basically on freelance duty, going to the back, keeping Immortals somewhat distracted. Meanwhile, Immortals, they're not running very divey. In fact, they're also running with a triple tank setup, very reminiscent of last meta. And this has been what we've been seeing a lot from Immortals, where they haven't necessarily given in to a heavy DPS setup, but as mentioned, they can't run that nearly as much anyways.
Well, Flippy is on that Tracer. We mentioned his hit scan prowess earlier today, and he takes down Nomi immediately. Also, Nomi was a point of contention with us. Very difficult to play Reinhardt against all the Tracers that you see. Your team has to help you out there because you can't pivot and turn the shield. Otherwise, you leave your team exposed. Getting very aggressive here on the defense, trying to push it a little forward. Now they fall back a bit.
They're going to fall back a bit. Of course, we lose Nomi that early on. That has been Immortals' Achilles heel, where sometimes Nomi does go down early. He was able to avoid a lot of that in the OMM and versus Renegades. We'll see if they can do this a little bit more solidly as they begin their second attack here. Both teams engaging here to start things out. And take a look at Flippy in the back line with Super Fluke. Give me 4 unanswered kills here from LG Loyal as we see Hype just trying to throw himself off the
I'm just remembering with great pleasure all the threads I read that Tracer's not good against the tank meta. We've seen Tracer just dominating tanks lately. Pulse bombs all over Reinhardts, all over Roadhogs, really just buffing up that ultimate, alt batteries.
Well, next fight here is going to be underway in just a moment, and Pluke holding on to Earth Shatter. We'll see how he does this here, if he goes for a flanking Earth Shatter or just holds it at the front end. Let's look at the front end, and a Sleep Dart sets it up. That is beautiful. Hedan, Sleep Dart from the back, opening things wide for Pluke, and that's going to be another decisive fight here for LG Loyal. So Immortals, for this being their map choice, still don't appear all that confident. Now, Grim is in the back here on an island by himself. We'll see how long it lasts, but Immortals does need to get back in here quickly if they want to support Grim.
It is Hedan, who is a sleep dart specialist, of course. He's had so many great plays. Look at this flank from Graham. One support down, a second support in his side. Gets booped, gets hooked. So not exactly the value he wants, but if you're going to take out one target, Hedan's the guy.
Well, Hedan may be going down, but the Big Bang combo is on the point. It's going to be 3 extra people dying here from Immortals, and I think Grim did need to pick up at least 2 for that. LG Loyal, though, they're investing a lot of ultimates into this fight. Graviton, Big Bang, and a sound barrier just to secure it, so they didn't really want to mess around, but in the end, they convert that for a win. Minute 30 left on the clock here for Immortals. We'll see if they have a little bit more luck on their next push.
And the display now showing that it was only 1 tick there rather than 2 as it does revert back. That has got to be a disappointing thing. Spree has been nearly 80% charged this entire time, although Pluke versus Hyped is going to be the next big matchup. Those are the ultimates we've got on the table. Grim has rotated over to a McCree instead.
Well, for McCree right now, he is going to get decent positioning here in and over the top. And here's the offensive Graviton. Only pulls in 1. Pluke going to charge into it just to help shield. But agility's off that Graviton, takes down Ube. So 6v5 opportunity for Immortals here as Pluke goes down to Grim.
He was trying to hammer down, and Grim decided that he did not want to see that carpentry in action, puts a bullet right into him, puts him down, and this should be Immortals taking it. That was a clutch shot if I've ever seen one.
It was very decisive there because that Earth Shatter could have turned it back the other way. Immortals, though, going to be getting the point now. A lot of time burned off the clock for LG Loyal, so there's a solid defense coming up there where operating on most levels, and Immortals in particular, not really able to take the grind out fight super quickly there as both teams running relatively tank heavy.
They struggled, and it was largely because Nomi was getting focused early on by Flippy on the Tracer. He's got another pulse bomb, but looking for a flank.
Well, flank is coming in here from LG Loyal. They're sacrificing high ground. Oh, they run right into the Earth Shatter. Nomi was well prepared there. LG Loyal able to even it out 4 versus 4 despite how this has started. And they are delaying, but this is very awkward positioning for defense to say the least. Ube, though, piling on, getting on the Grim, and for the defense of LG Loyal, they have to feel okay about this. They might get pushed out, but they've still bought a decent amount of time very deep in this defense.
They're going to trade out ultimates. The Nano did go down on the other side. Ube gets his life saved by the sound barrier early on here. This positioning has been all over the place. This is a brawl and a half, though finally a couple of kills in a row for the Immortals will allow them to take some high ground. And, you know, Grim is working his way up to the high ground. He's pretty good up there.
Grim is pretty good up there, and I will note for Loyal's defense here, they're looking to just bleed out time rather than absolutely hold Immortals on high ground. Sometimes that can be a mistake here on Eichenwald because now you see Immortals high ground grouped up for them, but LG Loyal, attacking it. Super Fluke moving in off the nano boost, picks off Nomi immediately, and Immortals suddenly getting bisected here from both sides. It's 3 unanswered kills by Loyal as Fluke picks up 3.
A beautiful charge. He had nowhere to go. There's just simply not the width on that bridge to be able to sidestep it, so he put himself in a bad position to get charged. Super Fluke going for more. Does end up taking down Agilities with the help of Flippy. Flippy, who has gotten off of the Tracer after the flank did not work out well for them. Going to be on the Soldier 76, and this is great for them to win that fight. They can reestablish, they can take the high ground. High ground is everything, especially in second phases of maps.
The upside about having the high ground here, too, is that it's going to make Hype's job of landing a Graviton this next fight harder. And this is where Hype probably does have to land that Graviton to set this up. Immortals now, it looks like they're going to be going for the high ground through the middle castle. And this is actually very good if Hype can land a Graviton here. It's going to get 4 or 5 people in. But the Graviton comes in from LG Loyal first, and the Earth Shatter. They lose 2, and Hype's Graviton not going to do much of anything.
No, not much at all. As you mentioned, the air loss too, they have to retreat. Not getting picked off late is Ethan, who gets saved by a bubble for the moment, but Flippy will take him down after that. The good thing, though, I suppose, is they did not throw good money after bad. Hype's Graviton not in an ideal position. You never want to be fighting up a staircase, a narrow staircase nonetheless, so they held everything after the fact. Ethan got his ultimate during that. We might see some Electric Cowboy, which has worked out for teams, especially LG Evil. Have not seen Immortals been running it a lot, though.
Well, Immortals, this is going to be one of their last outs here and actually trying to make this happen. And they don't have great positioning for it, but they're just taking the ground and pound approach. No flankers open. And Nomi knocks down 2. Graviton comes out from Spree here, though. Going to pull in 4, but the fall through not there because of Grim's Deadeye. So Grim gonna get 3 before it's all said and done. And the Earth Shatter setup does work out well here for Immortals. It's gonna be an overtime push, but the game will not end just yet.
We've seen Deadeye not get a lot of value in several situations, but the one situation it will always do well in is when the opponent's shield is down. That's why you see so many combos. Going way back in the day, Reunited was the best at flashbanging or cracking the shield and getting that combo through. Now you see Sleep Dart set it up, Earth Shatter set it up, that Reinhardt has to be down, and you see that giant Deadeye. One more fight will happen before second point. Cart in overtime.
Immortals right now just trying to keep good control of the doors, but Flippy off the flank, Tac Visor coming in, gets a nano boost later in, and there's no shields in his way now, gunning down the backline. Ethan already out of this fight. And LG Loyal trying to reestablish on that payload. They're getting a sound barrier. That's going to let them clear out the rest here. Very difficult to deal with the team diving into you with that sound barrier. And as a result, LG Loyal going to be stopping this push right before the castle gates.
The shields are so important. They noticed that Nomi had gotten low after a couple of hammer swings, able to clean him up. And once that shield is down, nothing to protect you from tactical visor there. Zarya can do a little bit, help out one person, maybe herself, but with your main shield down, you're just in trouble. You have to try to use the cart for cover, and Soldier, just a hard assassin to be able to run away from. But they get it all the way to second point before second point, and for the maintenance crew of Eichenwald, that is one gate that does not need to be replaced.
Anything you can save on your maintenance budget is a good day for the Eichenwald crew. They probably are just wondering why people are fighting over this castle anyways.
Yeah, it seems like they have given up the upkeep. Some of these buildings are a little bit bombed out. Squatters everywhere in Eichenwald. Maybe Winston will move here next after being evicted from Gibraltar.
You know, this would be a good place. He also has the forest to roam about. I mean, it's not jungle, but, you know, Winston got to take his choices. But taking a look here at the defense coming out here from Immortals, Immortals not really going to be changing things up here too much. Again, coming in with a very tank-heavy setup. And it's interesting that you do have this divide now in how teams have been playing in Overwatch, particularly in the West, where you do have your teams that are very heavily dive. Immortals keeping it more from what we saw a few months back. Meanwhile, you take a look at LG Loyal. They are going to be going far more divey themselves here. So LG Loyal not necessarily married to the idea of a triple tank setup.
Far more divey might be a bit of an understatement. That is about as divey of a composition as you can run. You're going to have Flippy and Ube, of course, on the flankers. And the thing that I thought was missing from a lot of these dives was the Zenyatta. They're going to roll that in there, too. I do question how effective Spree is going to be. He will likely be getting the orb, but that makes your flankers more susceptible. It might be too much dive.
The interesting thing about how Immortals is running this is that they have a lot of support for Grim Reality here, but they also make Grim Reality the greatest prize if he's taken out, because with Grim is down, there's not going to be that much out there to really apply tons of pressure to Spree and Ube, short of a Roadhog hook, which more effective versus Ube, but still ways of playing around it.
Yeah, I just worry about their long-distance healing. But right away, Ube takes on Agilities. There goes Nomi, half of the tank line already dead. There goes Grim.
That's a pretty good dive.
That is an incredibly good dive. It is incredibly decisive, and as a result, it's going to be LG Loyal taking this with ease, 6-0 to start out this fight. And what happened there is Agilities went out a little bit, tried to get that early hook, was too far out, and is immediately punished. So this is rough here for Immortals, and it's a tale of two teams here where Immortals looked far better in the weekend than they do right now.
That is the best dive I've ever seen, at least in recent memory. And that's what's so frustrating about this LG Loyal team. They have moments like that where you just cannot believe what you just saw. However, momentum will be slowed down a little bit now as Agilities was able to take down Flippy. It's going to be difficult for them to really establish a high ground because there's 6 up there, but it's also going to be very difficult for them to slow poke at the bottom. So it's going to be interesting to see where their next strategy comes in. Maybe trying to blink around. That's a nice play from Tracer. Pulls him off the door.
Well, the dive of LG Loyal coming in here once more. Grim sacrificing the high ground to help out, and the reason is Immortals they were really too far up. They didn't give good sightlines to Grim to actually help out with that poke from above. So now Immortals not necessarily in the greatest position. You have a Winston in the back line. Here comes Ube. Dragon Blade being unleashed, slicing into the back, focusing on Zarya. No, ends up taking a Zarya right click right to the face. Target prioritization there for Ube. Not as good as it might be, but it's a good recovery from Hyped as Grim now comes in on the flank.
It's on the flank trying to pepper in some damage, but does not love that angle. Meanwhile, Agility's up front. This is as brawly of an Eichenwald as you will ever see. These fights are simply never ending. There is a sound barrier from the offense as they continue to push. Grim has Tactical Visor ready, but he's being hunted down mercilessly. Winston is getting there. He will retreat to the safe arms of Ethan on the Ana. Now Ana's the target.
And for Ethan, this could be going down, and it is going to be that as Ube able to finish a kill. That Juke was really helping to set up.
Juke jumped off the edge, so Nomi backed up. Maybe they're not related, but then he's jumping right back in.
Well, here we go. This is still a lot of pressure coming from LG Loyal. Immortals has built up a convincing ult bank, and they might have to expend a lot of this just to hold here. They have to hold for 4 more minutes total. Hype going down, and now they're just going to try Nanovisor here to clear this up and get some degree of stability. But it works out. It sets up Agilities for 2 kills. The pressure forcing LG Loyal entirely back. But for LG Loyal, you have to like where you're at right now. 3 minutes and 50 seconds left remaining. As I struggle to read that there as the blue is just blending in with the bluest of skies and on the top. We need more pollution here in Eichenwald.
That's a terrible notion. Well, let's just change the color. Come on. Anyway, so we'll see how LG Loyal can reestablish their offense. What's important is that Immortals has a breather on defense. They're still all scattered about, though. The only time they want to fight is they got 6 together. Hype got caught out there early. They were all over the place. Now has to save Agilities, who gets himself in a little bit of trouble, discorded. They need to, I mean, I hate to say it, just group up a little bit more. They're freelancing, and they're not winning the duels when they're freelancing.
Well, next fight here is going to be underway, and Hype does hold on to that Graviton. Spree, though, going to open up here with the Tac Visor. Not sure what he has in his sights here just yet, but Hype is going to go down. There won't be a defensive. The Graviton came out right before he died. It was a little bit forced, and Ube going to get 3 in the backline instead. Immortals not on the same page for that defensive Graviton, and it just did not work out for them.
It was a great read for Ube there. That's why you saw him deflecting in the face of a Zarya. We all know the beam does not get deflected by Genji's deflect, but Graviton does, so that's what he was doing. Hype was pressured out to find a different angle, tossing it in desperation. No follow-up there. Ube's Genji looked legit there on the cleanup. 5 kills towards the end.
And the interesting thing there, too, is I think Spree's Tac Visor, even though it didn't get too much in the way of direct kills, it was enough of a distraction that people weren't really paying attention to Ube in and under those circumstances. And we're going to see an instant replay here of that final Dragon Blade.
Yep, there it is. Hype down, Ethan down. Slicing and dicing, as one of my favorite casters likes to say.
Yeah. So looking at that, I was just a little aghast at how Immortals handled that dive offense. And to me, when I'm looking at dive offenses, the number one thing is stick together, because they're literally trying to pick you off. They're literally trying to get that first kill. They're all in. They're going to be just trying to get kills. And when you're all spread out like they were, it just completely gives up the fight.
Well, the biggest thing that struck out to me is just terrible positioning from Immortals there, where I don't know what they're doing, is that you had 3 people on the payload on Eichenwald defense right by that gate in front of first. They were so far up that Grim had to jump off the high ground and come back in to actually shoot anyone. I don't understand, when you're running a soldier in that case from a great vantage point, why you wouldn't back your team up a bit, let the payload move forward a little bit and let Grim shoot everyone that's shooting you, because instead there was a period there for about 10 seconds where Grim was not able to help out his team, finally gives up his positioning to leap down, and it's just not a great place to be fighting for. We do see teams have success with more beefier, Ike-involved second defenses. So across the board, this was just a very sloppy game for Immortals, but conversely, a much better game for LG Loyola with very good initiations that, frankly, punished Immortals.
Very good coordination. And that moment you're talking about is one of the rare moments in Overwatch where you say, let them in, give them space. I can't shoot them. You guys are way too far up. And that positioning carried through. One of the notes we had on Immortals coming into the entire tournament was they don't reestablish well on second. And that was picturesque what we saw there. Hyped got caught out alone a couple times. There seemed to be times where half of them wanted to retake high ground, but the other half could not get up there. And when you're facing that kind of composition, you're almost always in a 2v1, even if it looks like a 1v1, because Zenyatta's there. And he's throwing the orb there from a distance and the Discord orb on him. It's almost like, and this is in your wheelhouse, it's like Heroes of the Storm fighting someone with an Abathur. It looks like a 1v1, but it's actually 2v1, and you're going to lose that generally. And getting caught out there, the tank's not reestablishing well. It looked like vintage Immortals when they're not playing well.
Yeah, and apparently I'm going to have to play some more Heroes of the Storm and get some of these references. I feel like I should. I'm sorry, Blizzard. No, but yeah, talking about Immortals, it just seems like on defense especially, and you have to be able to choose where you're fighting, and they just were not choosing the right times. And this is more of what we saw in week 1 from them, just being a little spread out. We talked about pushing your tanks towards your damage dealers and really enabling Grim Reality. And he was by himself a bunch. You mentioned he has to jump off the high ground. They weren't leveraging their strengths.
Well, no, and the other problem is, too, is that they did put themselves in a bit of a bind with the composition they were running in terms of dealing with the Genji in the backline. It was really a situation where it was either going to be Agilities or Grim that were neutralizing Ube there, if you take, again, a look at the Immortals defense, and Agilities was just struggling to get pickoffs, period. And Grim, I mean, again, wasn't really with his team half the time. Something was out of sync there, but what it meant is that Ube, especially on the final push, had a bit of a playground for doing whatever he wanted to do. So across the board for Immortals, this was just not great. Although, again, I do want to emphasize just that this is a much bigger tick up for LG Loyal, where what we saw there is that they had very defined game plans. Yep. They weren't switching randomly. And in another week, I would say that Immortals would have gotten away with some of the mistakes they were making, but not this week. LG Loyal looked much better.
Yeah.
It's one of the check marks that I had for Loyal, and they've been so close through it. They're a frustrating team to watch, as I mentioned, but finishing fights. There are times where we would have seen Loyal get that Agilities pick, and then the fight go on for 30 more seconds, and Agilities would have been back in there. That was the most decisive fight you could possibly have in Overwatch. It was a beautiful, picturesque dive composition. Of course, Immortals gave it up on a platter, being out of position as they were in some spots, but then finishing the final fight there, too, and that's what we were talking about with Ube. There are situations where the Genji is going to be all that crucial. Genji's the best at finishing fights, period. End of story. On Assault, that's why you have to run him there. And Ube stepping up on that Genji. They finished fights. They finished a map. That you know what that third check mark is.
Well, speaking of Assault, we are going into our next map, which is going to be an Assault map where Immortals are going to try to pull themselves together as their backs are now up against the wall in a potential upset that would repeat the first in week 1. And it's going to be Hanamura. This has not been the map most selected by teams. In fact, Immortals has... Well, I think they almost set records, quote unquote, on Temple of Anubis. Why do you think they're bringing us to Hanamura here?
The only thing I can say is that for Immortals, the record on Hanamura is 1-1, and for LG Loyal, their record on Anubis is 3-2. They're much better on it, and they're 0-1 on Hanamura. Not a ton of data, but maybe they're leaning towards it that way. I don't know, but I feel that Hanamura can be very difficult to defend against a dive offense, especially on first, but not so much on last. Dive offense doesn't work all that well on last because that room is so enormous.
To be honest, I probably would have liked to have seen Immortals bring this to Anubis, and the main reason is to protect them from themselves. We saw how spread out they were, which, I mean, you take a look at their match history, that actually has been more their bane, where they struggled on maps like Hollywood and other more wider open spaces. I feel like Temple of Anubis is closed in enough that it would sort of insulate Immortals from harming themselves with decisions that do not benefit them. Hanamura is more wide open, both on first and especially second, so I actually think that this might favor LG Loyal a bit, despite the limited data set that we have for them here, at least with how Immortals has been playing tonight.
If we get to last, I want to see what LG Loyal wants to run on their offensive last. We've seen teams in this tournament struggle on Hanamura last, trying to run 4 DPS, even 3 DPS. It does seem like you need to win that initial fight up top and then win another one. It's a difficult last to push, just the sheer size of that room. However, we got some Symmetra on the field.
Symmetra coming in, and we've actually been seeing a lot less of Symmetra recently, especially with the rise of dive compositions, but here's the good part if you're LG Loyal. You know that on a pure matchup basis, Immortals does not like running crazy dive like other teams, so even though we've been seeing less Symmetra because of dive, going into this you can reasonably expect that you probably won't be seeing the dive, which means that Symmetra still could be in play and do well here for LG Loyal.
Which is odd because I do think Immortals has the tools to run a dive. They just don't go with it as often. Maybe Nomi's not as comfortable on the Winston, but you could put Grim on Tracer and Agilities on Genji, no problem. Regardless, we have a Mei here too. This is a little bit of an older strategy, but still checks out.
It checks out because there's no dive to go in over the wall. However, with that early charge from Nomi, goodbye Reels, Agility's piling off the hook. 4 versus 4 on this fight already, and that's usually a bad omen for a Hanamura defense.
Well, bringing it back though, Reels did get a lot of charge there too, as he ended up with a kill while he was dead, 55%. If they can hold this for the next 30 seconds or so and get back up here, they're definitely facing the possibility of getting a teleporter or shield gen. And now they found themselves in a corner. Ube takes down Agilities over in that stairwell, and this defense will reestablish.
Respawns are coming back in for them, so this is gonna work out. They don't have quite the Symmetra charge that they would have liked here. And Grim out in the middle of nowhere right now, surrounded by enemies on all sides. This is where you want to be as a 76. This is not the adventure you want.
No, Mei took him on an adventure straight to where Mei lives. Rhymes with smell. Anyway, here comes the shield, and now they're getting so much charge. Teleporter's up, shield generator could be up. Interesting to see which they go with here. They did just lose Pluke.
They're going to go teleporter here. They lost 2 people. They don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Teleporter's going to come back online. They are going to get reinforcements. They just have to be careful that everyone still up here doesn't die immediately. His hype
Beam, beam.
Caught between a bunch of turrets. Not where you want to be in that situation. Reinforcements now coming in, and as much as I'm sure Grim would love to get on the teleporter, just not going to be able to do it as Reels picks up 2.
Well, they know where the teleporter is now. I guess that's the first step. Agility is forced to pop Whole Hog here. Teleporter, I believe, has maybe 1 or 2 charges left, but Flippy comes through, gonna pop Tactical Visor up top. They need this as they're using a bunch of ults on the point.
That is a nice Earthshard though coming down from them. You got knocked down 3, but fall through, not there. Reinforcements for LG Loyal now on the way. And with Nomi going down, it's gonna be LG Loyal perhaps starting to reestablish here. Grim's trying to bring it back, but he's going against heroes that are very tanky, and he's not able to get the early pickoff. He has built up a Pulse Bomb, and the rest of Immortals coming in off the Sound Bear, so it's still very much back and forth.
This is probably going to be enough, as the teleporter just does not have the charges to reinforce this one. Grim with 3 kills there will eventually crack this first point. Grim on that Tracer doing a lot of good work. They are going to have a big bang combo here. They might just rush this. I think they should rush this.
Generally, it's a good idea after winning a fight decisively, and that's pretty much what they're going to do here. They're going to come in up the gut, but they're going to get split off by Mei. That's a very nice wall here by Ube, but they don't get any kills off the split just yet. Nomi does finally fall. This is going to make it a 5v5. That was scary, though, from the side of LG Loyal, where if they didn't finish that kill off the wall, could have been bad. And a shot comes in from Pluke. Not just going to be enough to clean it up. I don't know if it was necessary, though.
Probably not necessary, but you never know in these situations. You don't want to have it snowball onto you like that. Grim is going to get out with his life on the Tracer. Flippy, hoping he peeks back around. He does not. They will have Blizzard up for this next point, and the non-traditional Mei pick also helps the Soldier 76 get over to that high ground a little bit easier, as Flippy's going to be holding that high ground. They're not going to go all in on a one-side hold, but if they do push in, yeah, Ube is in a great position, walls him off. Not the split you really want. Did he get someone in those stairs?
No, he didn't get anything, and this is where he's going to have to compensate with the Blizzard, and that's exactly what he does. Moves in, turns Lucio into a popsicle, but the fall through isn't there. I don't think LG Loyal was actually on the same page for that Blizzard. It would have been fine if they were, but they were far up during that. They didn't come in. And now this is a little bit more wide open. That said, 4 versus 4, still a bigger uphill battle for the offense.
They're throwing a lot at Flippy up here, who is getting poked down a little bit, but getting some heals from his team. He's still difficult to deal with. Now he's going to have Tactical Visor. Probably going to wait for some of these ults on the point to dissipate. Has to be careful of an Ana snipe, too.
Well, Attack Visor is going to come out from Flippy in over the top, looking to pepper down the people on the point, and does just that with the aid of Heat and Pluke.
Yeah.
Flippy ends up with 2 before it's said and done, and I do wonder for Immortals there, where I understand the idea where you think you have a moment to fight, and to some degree they did, but they were also down 2 people. You have to be very sure in investing extra ultimates there. They do that, but they get very little in return.
But you know Flippy's up there, and yes, he's taking some damage, but he's going to have Bio Shield. He's going to have his own Ana healing him up. You can't fight below a soldier like that, knowing he was up there. Everyone shot at him at least once. It's not like the team didn't know he was there.
No, they didn't. I still think that overall in Overwatch, teams don't do a good enough job of really isolating a tactic visor soldier, which can ruin pushes, but agilities find Spree early on. A nice 6v5 opportunity coming up here. Grim, freelance again, off the flank, gonna be fighting Ube. We'll see if this works out. It's not traditional 76 positioning. He's not gonna be able to get on the high ground, and it's actually just not working out very well at all, as the rest of his team is dying up in the traditional upper left corner.
Yeah, not enough damage from Grim, and even finally taking out Ube, it's not going to matter. Grim will be lucky to get out with his life. He's going to put on his sprinting shoes and get up there. There's been some nice splits here from this LG Loyal defense. I like that Flippy's been up there the entire time.
Flippy's been doing well. I'm not sold on how Grim played that, because here's the thing for Grim. The upside there is that you get an early pickoff. Now you're able to leverage that. The downside is that you're not in great positioning to really pile on, which you could be if you came in from a higher elevation.
Again, that soldier up there is so difficult to deal with this spread out defense. They're sending squads up left, right, and center, so no great options. You generally don't see a team push to that right side, so they're going to rotate center top.
Well, the bigger problem that they have here, too, is that they do have Blizzard up in addition to a defensive graviton. So for Immortals, best case scenario here, going to be a junk rush, and they're going to go into a point. They're going to make LG Loyal at least expend some of their power as Grim able to take down one, arguably two there. Defensive graviton is used, and still not as decisive as LG Loyal would like here. They're gonna have to blow a sound barrier just to tread water and keep Immortals off this point.
Some ultimates are coming out from the attacking side, though, as they did use Whole Hog. Grim looking to get this final bits of damage in before his tactical visor can come up. They are still in decent position, but Real's able to demech the Diva. Does give his life for it, though. Trading out back and forth. The big question is, if they think they have a chance, will Grim pop this?
I'm really hoping that Grim doesn't use it. No, he's gonna go for it. Nano, sound barrier, they're all in, but the Blizzard's on the point. They're not getting any progress while this is going on. They trade out one already, and for using all those ultimates, they get nothing. Absolutely nothing in return. They rush that engage, and LG Loyal doing a very good job of just hanging back, not engaging back into that and saying, you guys have to come to us, and Immortals comes up with nada.
They did force out the response where Flippy and Hidan also had to use their ultimates in conjunction, but now, look at this, completely set up again. A little over a minute left, probably one decent push left, but no one really near ultimates. Hyped, looking for the self-destruct of his life, but with how spread out they are, not sure he's gonna find pay dirt, but you never know with those types of things. The battle will ensue on the counter stairs. They still have not pressured Flippy enough for my liking.
No, they haven't. I think they've just been ignoring him, hoping to get on the rest of LG Loyal, but it hasn't been working out. That's a lot of damage coming in from Flippy in this position. Let's Ploop get 2 kills effectively, just finishing them off, and already this push for Immortals into the dumpster.
Absolutely over. They did switch agilities onto the Genji a little bit ago to try to pressure Flippy. He was jumping up there, but it was already after 2 kills had gone down, so they need to reorder their priorities here. Flippy would be one for me, and he gets taken care of, then you push through the stairs. They did it in the other order. They're really denying agilities. They're protecting Flippy, though. It's very difficult to get up there.
This is going to be the final fight here for Immortals. The self-destruct probably needs to take out at least one if they want to help, and the wall, gonna start this out. Here comes Hype. The Diva self-destruct getting in over the top, does not connect on anything. LG Loyal, well prepared for it. And now Immortals gonna have to win this on mechanical terms, but they get hit by the Graviton. Ploop with the immediate follow through, takes down 2. And off a great Graviton by Spree, this push almost certainly going to be over. LG Loyal holding Immortals to a mere 1 point here on Hanamura.
And it's the Mei. I don't know why we don't see more Mei on Assault. We used to see so much more of her, and I think she is still so viable there. There she's running double duty of getting Flippy up top every single time. Every single time, it's so easy with that wall.
I'll tell you why we're not seeing more Mei. Even though I do think you can make the argument she's more viable on Assault, I just think that teams don't like her wall getting very little done versus more mobile, more divey compositions.
Right. But you know you're facing 3 tanks when Immortals is playing you. Yeah.
Right. Well, my next point is going to be is that against Immortals, Mei is uniquely suited to being better against the compositions that they are running. So I think for LG Loyal here, you can argue that they've done their homework. Now, if LG Loyal goes against a dive-heavy team and suddenly runs Mei and gets completely run over, well, I'm going to retract that compliment. But for now, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt in that they have studied some game tape of Immortals, and they've come out with a convincing game plan here so far.
Absolutely. They're going to be running a interesting defense as if this is what they come out with, a hybrid defense, very divey, but then Flippy on the Symmetra of all things. So they will run 2 healers and a sim. spree for the moment on a Pharah. Ube, of course, had a great Genji game, so that was one of my prerequisites too. If you're feeling the Genji, then keep playing it. And Pluke is going to be the only tank on Winston.
So it is going to be a very divey attack coming out here from LG Loyal, which worked out very well for them when I involved. Now you take a look at Immortals, and for Immortals, this is a somewhat interesting defense. I'm not convinced that they're going to have a lot of synergy based on their personal playstyle, the Torb into the dive your heroes and Tracer and Genji. I'm willing to believe, but the problem here to some extent, especially if you haven't played this as much, is that you're going to have Hyped and Agilities freelancing a little bit more. But there's also going to be more time here where Torb is going to be able to help out if they do call to go in deep. And if they take any fight that's not in the turret range, I think LG Loyal actually is going to have a bit of an advantage. So we'll see how it works out, but...
Yeah, so I was a little confused on what his side was what. Sorry, guys, I'm just Overwatch overload lately and can't read so good. Barely literate as is. So Flippy is going to be on the offensive Widow here, something we've seen before. Of course, not running offensive Symmetra. I'm silly. And he's going to be looking for picks up here. Can be a good spot for Widow.
It can be a very good spot for Widow, and he's just going to look for early pickups. We've seen a lot more Widow on first point assault because, frankly, it's good, and he's able to neutralize the turret pretty much for free early on. And the rest of LG Loyal, they're going to dive in, and down goes Agilities. It's a Widow shot combined with Ube's dash, and already LG Loyal big advantage as Hype just tastes dirt there. Flippy very much on point in this Widow, and this is going to be a snowball. LG Loyal taking this about as decisively as you can, powered by some very good Widow play.
As I mentioned, if you want a Widow specialist who can play some good Tracer in 76, Flippy might just be your guy. Veteran FPS gamer showing that those skills don't necessarily deteriorate. Great Widow life there. Still a little bit away from the infrared sight, which you would love to have here.
Well, he is going to have that infrared sight to set this up here. Not necessarily the most impactful of ultimates, but does get you away from Roadhog ambushes and that sort of stuff that can come in early on.
Hook 2.0 goes off of sight lines. Ube's still in it.
They're still in it, and LG Loyal now diving onto a point. They're going to try and make the most of this here. Hype's going to go down, but so does Flippy. They get rid of that Widow threat in the back, and that's very big. Even as LG Loyal's piling on here, they're not going to have Widow sniping the spawn doors, but Ube trying to blade out, clearing out some of the remainder on the point. It's only Agilities that's still up and in this thing, and they have 2 ticks now as they move in. This is such a fast attack. Immortals on the verge of going down 2 maps. Will they even be able to stall this out? Agilities, he's going to fall down. It is do or die for Immortals, and right now they're choosing the die option as LG Loyal swarms onto this point.
Hedan feeling very at home here in the temple as he gets a couple of kills. Every target's been discorded. They take care of the problem as Hype takes down Hedan. Now they've got a supercharged Winston looking for more. This might be the window closing down. Ube still thinks they're in it.
Flippy's back. Flippy's sniping from the back line. No one's on him right now as Ube dashes back and forth. Verbo's going to go down, and LG Loyal is still in this.
They need to knock him off. Don't even try to get the kill. Just knock him off. That's what they do. They pick up the point. Where has this LG Loyal team been?
Well, for LG Loyal, 2 things. A is that Flippy's Widow there was crushing. Something that they did not have in the past in Icefeld. Icefeld did sometimes tinker with Widow, but did have openings like that. And the rest of LG Loyal playing very well to set that up. Meanwhile, for Immortals, it was a confusing defense to begin with based on what we know they're good at. It really was. And they get crushed on point A. They get crushed so badly that LG Loyal is able to come in with immense momentum, and LG Loyal utilizes that momentum very effectively. So for Immortals now, they're going to have to do the true reverse of week 1 and go for a reverse sweep against LG Loyal if they want to bring this back and secure their spot in the playoffs off day 1 of play.
Because that is what's on the line. We didn't really talk about it very much, but that is what if they win this game, no matter what, they're in the playoffs. And you ask, well, where has LG Loyal been? My question is, where even was Immortals in this one? Their positioning, it's just, I have no idea what they're doing. Even just that turret placement, and I mean, that could work on certain circumstances, but especially if you know Flippy could bring Widow, it's there. But then they're all spread out. They just don't seem to be all on the same page.
Well, I think the thing that stuck out to me is that you had this sort of scenario where Immortals is not as comfortable running dive. And then they switch to a dive defense. But then they mix in a Torb at the same time, which can work. It's just going in, I was very cautious of wondering if Immortals can make this particular flavor work because you have to be very clear about how you dive out. Are you within range of the turret? And of course, the turret placement in general doesn't work out. It gets taken down effectively for free without buying an opportunity for your divers to get into the back. It was just awkward across. And credit where credit is due to LG Loyal, where LG Loyal just punished it like the inconsistent strategy that it was.
And I think it has been Hedan on Zenyatta, to be honest. I think their time to kill has always been their biggest issue forever for me, that they don't finish fights quickly enough. I've said it ad nauseum to this point. Adding in Hedan onto the Zenyatta, it becomes the hunt for the purple balloon. Where's the Discord? Let's finish it. And that's exactly what Ube is doing. That's why Zenyatta looks so powerful. On that last point, the dash resets. Everyone died, had a Discord on him. Hedan was getting kills himself too. So I think I've prophesized adding in Zenyatta was the final step some teams needed to make. When you've got a support player like Hedan who can play Zenyatta at that level, I don't know why you don't add it in earlier. It looks like that might be the missing piece. And overall, everyone's just playing really, really well for that team.
The thing that just is blowing my mind right now is that I really don't know what Immortals team we're going to see now from day to day,
Right?
because how do you go from everyone being on the same page, very well coordinated, last week in the OCS versus Renegades, and putting down a very impressive showing in the Overwatch Monthly Melee where it was stacked with good teams. They played well. And then you come out here on Monday night and everything is lacking, everything's in disarray, and you're running compositions that you don't necessarily are run as a general rule, that you're not known to run. It's just weird coming out here for Immortals right now.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean, it could be that they're just having a bad day. There's a lot of things that I could throw out there, but it's impossible to tell at this point. But the question right now in my mind is, how are they going to react coming into Game 3? Are they going to be able to flip things around and get the reverse sweep that we saw at Week 1 against them? They're going to have to do it on Nepal, as they have selected this next map. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm very willing to Immortals blowing my mind here, but if you take a look at their record, they don't really care to play on Control that much. They're a team that, when they look at Control, I'm not going to call them the anti-LG Evil, but they're pretty close. It definitely doesn't play to their strengths going in here. And given that they have been playing weaker on maps that should be their strengths, I'm not going to come in here and think that they're going to amaze us with above average performance on Control, where, frankly, going into the series, you would have expected this to be the other way around, where it would be 2-0 Immortals going to Control, and this would be where LG Loyal would start making their comeback. For LG Loyal to be up 2-0 going into a game mode that you're favored in, they have to be ecstatic right now.
And neither of these teams are anything to write home about on Control. Both have struggled with it throughout the series, but just given what we just saw, it seems that LG Loyal has come to play. They've come to save the glory of their team. As I mentioned, this is a perception-changing set for them. If they can do this to Immortals, and granted we don't necessarily know what Immortals is, but have been previously a very consistent team, if they can come out here and rock them the way they've already rocked them so far, my perception already changes about LG Loyal.
Well, the key for LG Loyal here at the very least is that even though they can no longer make the playoffs, they are giving a strong incentive to keep them on as a rostered team and showing that their changes that they made recently, where Icefelt has left, has perhaps worked out for the better.
Well, you know what? No matter which way you slice it, they are coming out firing on all cylinders, this LG Loyal squad, as they're up 2-0 in the series against Immortals. Immortals potentially playing for their playoff lives here as Liquid. They are definitely rooting for LG Loyal in this one, coming into the third map of Nepal.
Well, this makes a lot of sense, what we're seeing from the Immortals team right now. We talk about the term comfort picks, and defined right now. Hyped onto Diva, Grim Reality onto McCree, Athan on Ana. Agilities, you could argue that he could be on Genji, but he's just as at home on Roadhog too. So it is time to put all the strategies, all the meta away and play what you're best at. That's what they're busting out here.
This is what Immortals was playing heavily when they were having a high degree of success. So at this point, it's let's run with what we're good at, as you mentioned. But Spree on the Pharah here early on in the village stage, and great attack angle coming out here where he's well above the fray, able to land rockets that splash 2-3 people at a given time, but Krim on the flank takes down Reels. This is going to be the McCree carry that was prophesized.
Well, no one's even near him right now. It's just a playground. He's a little weary now that he's given up his position, but no problem by Ube. He's going to duel with the Mercy pistol duel. Now has to back out. A little bit scared, but eventually Hedan will fall. The Grim Reality McCree that we've all been promised has shown up here to Nepal.
Well, one thing there is that he was not under pressure. I don't expect LG Loyal to make that mistake again. What you really have to look at here is how is Pluk going to deal with this? Are Pluk and Ube going to team up to get on the Grim? They should, and we'll see if they do that. And it does appear like they are getting Grim space to start out this fight.
Well, Real's dancing a little too far out. Ends to dying to a fire strike. Some long-range damage came into him, and Nomi kills a couple here. This is still going to be a hold here for Immortals, as that's 5 quick kills.
Immortals looking far better here, and LG Loyal not necessarily with the best retake strategy. At what point, though, do you get off the McCree if Grim is really getting heavily focused, or do you just run with it?
Well, Grim's not really getting focused right now is the question, so I guess it remains to be seen. My question is, when do you get off this Pharah? Probably after the barrage.
Well, he was focused. Luke dove into him to begin with there. He was down to half HP and had to run out. It was Nomi and the others deal with that fight, and this time, Luke tries to dive on. It's not enough. An electric cowboy comes out. Grim gonna pick up 2, and I think the problem there is that when you're diving on a McCree and then you just miss the dive, you're giving him so much opportunity. And Grim, very good at capitalizing when he has space, and you don't get that pressure onto him.
Well, the problem is it's been largely solo divers. Ube and Flippy have been non-existent in Grim's life. He's only had to deal with a Winston, and despite Fan the Hammer not being what it once was, it can still deal with a Winston. They need to send more than one after him. That's the Grim solution, if you will.
Well, this attack coming in from LG Loyal is very scattered as they come through, but not all at the same time. Ube's gonna fall, and as it is, LG Loyal, they take on to the point. Immortals caught a little bit off guard by that, but Immortals well positioned to just take this right back. Deadeye comes out from Grim, not getting any skulls here, but zones everything back out and gets the Tracer kill towards the very end. So, it's interesting coming out. I don't think Immortals should have given up the point the way they did.
They solo res that too. They brought Flippy right back immediately after that Deadeye. Here comes a Pulse Bomb, not making his life worth saving. Another Electric Cowboy, but Grim gets slashed down by Ube as he comes in very back and forth. Still control of the point for LG Loyal, but numbers now favoring Immortals.
Immortals retaking this point with authority, 99% to 18 overtime. Just going to tick away, and I think the real problem there for LG Loyal is that whether it be the train of Village messing with them or not, is that you had Pluke diving into Grim, but he wasn't getting a whole lot of support, and even Pluke's dives going into Grim were haphazard. Grim saw it coming from a mile away, and Grim was very, very good at laying in damage. More so than that, too, is that when you're investing so much to try and get into Grim to begin with, you're also opening up Nomi and Agilities to very heavily take the tank side of the fight. So either way, much better round there for Immortals.
It's why your question caught me a little bit off guard, because in my mind, pressuring Grim is 3 people after Grim. That's what's been happening the entire tournament. A single pressure is not going to do anything to him, as you saw there. They did not invest enough, in my opinion, to deal with Grim.
Well, Grim going to be on the 76 this time around, and given what Immortals is running, you gotta think this is gonna be much more standard. Try and win the stairway battle, and what you see from LG Loyal, it's the same setup. So both teams going to butt their heads here on the Paul stairway. We'll see who comes out ahead, and it's gonna be a very aggressive charging coming in
by Spree. Spree gets, I believe, pushed off the edge with that charge. 2 down immediately, 3 down. Immortals have awoken from their slumber. They are in full control of control.
So Immortals taking that relatively quickly, and for Pluke, that was just a questionable charge. I don't think enough had progressed there to where you can justify just dive in, and he dies immediately for it, so it's very strange how they set that up. But now LG Loyal, who struggled with initiation in the last round, gonna have to find a way of getting through an even tougher round to initiate.
Well, they got the bubble advantage now, but he does end up getting knocked to the ground. Nomi does die early there from Ube. They had the bubble advantage from the Zarya, so they went in on that. That's why the initiation looks a lot better from Loyal as they waited out Hype's bubbles, and then Spree gave Pluke the advantage he needed to go in. They will take the point back over, now being attacked from all angles here. Will choose to get off of the point.
We'll get off the point, and Immortals right now coming back in off the nano boost, and Hyped trying to pull this back forward. LG Loyal not losing anyone, though. It's somewhat of a haphazard engage here by Immortals, and they're going to get forced back a bit. And bear in mind, LG Loyal, they did sneak control back at this point, so long as they fight it out, it's fine. Here comes Attack Visor in from Flippy with the nano boost, diving real deep, trying to get anything, and gets charged instead.
I don't know why you put yourself between a Reinhardt and a wall that close to a charge radius, and that is a flip over from Immortals. This has been a huge brawl, non-stop action here, but it seems that it might slow down now as they are pushing very far forward, though. This is a new wrinkle that Immortals has put in, being a more aggressive team than they used to be.
Well, they certainly have, they're loaded for bear going into the next fight here as well. They're going to have the Graviton Surge up, they're going to have the Attack Visor. LG Loyal, they have a lot as well, but if they invest ultimates into an ult showdown and lose, that's almost certainly going to be the round. So we'll see what comes up in this next fight. They are moving in, and the Graviton is going to be traded out immediately. It is a hail of blue and red. Everyone breaking it down, but Agilities is the one breaking it up. Gets 3 kills off of the Graviton. Immortals getting through that clustered LG Loyal squad.
I see your Graviton, I see your Sound Barrier, I see your, oh no, I don't have a whole hog. You win. That's exactly what happened there. They traded out ultimates, Agilities with the final throughput there on the whole hog. Man, whole hog can be so good with Graviton. As long as they're not getting launched away, it does so much damage. 80% now for Immortals, and they didn't have to burn everything. Yes, they invested some, but still gonna save the crucial combination of Nano Visor.
Well, for Loyal here, they're very much out of turn. They're good, there's the hook. Farewell, Fluke sent to the abyss as Grim takes down 3. This is so decisive right now for Immortals, and a big turnabout compared to what we were seeing from right before. So now it's gonna be up to LG Loyal to do the reverse sweep to bring back Nepal.
I'm at a loss of the difference between these teams from map to map. Immortals had shown us absolutely nothing, and now they come out in a stomp.
Well, particularly on control, which historically Immortals has been weaker on, so I don't know what I'm seeing here. It does feel a little bit like opposite day.
Well, opposite day, or Monday, as I call it. LG Loyal is going to be running a pretty divey composition here, which is what they've been good at. I do like to see Hidan rotating back to the Zenyatta.
Well, you take a look here on the compositions that are coming in here compared to before. And LG Loyal going to be running this very, very divey, hoping to get a little bit more chaos going. And I will say for this, they need to get on the Grim.
Absolutely. Grim is going to be the problem that needs answering, and you can't send a single person after him. We've seen the commitment has to be 1 or 2 people. He's already got the high ground. He's been a mile away from these fights very early on in stages.
Well, right now he's keeping himself safe. The danger is sometimes he's too out of a fight, and that might be the case here as Nomi falls early on. Both teams trading out kills. We'll see if Grim can pull this back. Usually McCree does like these smaller 4v4 fights. Hyped, taking out Ube, and this is where Grim can really shine.
Grim shines in these uneven numbers. There are 2 on the point. He's looking for a little bit of help. Aggressive roll in, does get the flashbang, but not enough as Reels is able to take him down.
And fight still going on here. Flippy coming back in, and perhaps this is a turnabout here for Loyal. They're going to get first control here. It works out a little bit better for them, although I can't say it's because they were focusing Grim. I think Grim just kept himself out of that fight a little bit too long to start things out.
It worked so well for him on the first stage, staying out of the fray, but he was able to get a lot more damage and kills. Agilities will find a lone Winston up there. Super Plute going down immediately. That should give them the advantage going into this next push.
The hook coming in from Agilities. Down goes Reels, but Ube bring right back. Dragon Blade, but no! Ends up taking a hit from the hammer instead. So still very even to start things out here. Flippy with attack visor, not too many targets early on. When you take a look at Spree, picks down 2 as the Tracer. Fight is going around in many different places here, X, and yet LG Loyal still standing on top.
Yeah, it's funny about LG Loyal. We talked about them solidifying their roles, but they have rotated a lot. It just seems that everyone's a little more comfortable with the rotations. Flippy and Spree have both ended up playing Tracer and 76, so a little more back and forth. The one who seems to be more solidified has been Ube. He's been rotating only between 2 heroes, so the rotations are still happening just between less players on the roster.
All right, and Immortals now. You note that Grim is on the Tracer, so no longer on the McCree. Didn't like the setup with all the dive coming out here from the side of LG Loyal. It's Agilities working to the back, looking for the early hook. Gonna have it in 2 seconds. Transcendence coming out here pretty early by Hidan, keeping LG Loyal up, and this flank from Agilities might be a little bit late.
Maybe. Grim does take down Hidan, though, who's been such a linchpin for their team. Now Agilities is going to be going into all of these squishy targets who have no healing onto him. A nice tracking, able to take down Spree, who's into the corner. During all of this time, it has been LG Loyal in control of the point. The hook comes in, makes a weird play onto it, able to finally pick up Ube, though, with the help of his friends. This will be Immortals finally taking control of the point, but one fight away is LG Loyal from winning their first stage here.
And you take a look at this here for Immortals. They're going to have to hold the rest of the round. How important is all economy to this in terms of where they're at? They do have 4 ultimates up. If they use all in one fight, is that going to be it?
I don't necessarily believe that if they use all of them, it's going to be it, but it's going to put them in a bad position. But at some point, you have to continue winning fights. But when you're in control of the point, you're fine. You should not be using ultimates now. You have the advantage.
Well, Grim certainly picking off from the backline, catching LG Loyal completely off guard there. And the better part for Economy, the only thing they threw into that fight was a nano boost, as Grim Reality, a little bit of saying hello to the dearly departed.
It's got to be an odd feeling for Tracer, watching a copy of yourself jump off a cliff and then saying goodbye in a jovial manner. I've had dreams similar to that, I think. They are going to be pushing into the point. Again, I think Immortals just needs to be reactive with ultimates, but they need to know which ult they're going to react with so that everyone doesn't double down on this. I think you can react with a Graviton. There's no reason to initiate. The onus is on LG Loyal.
Here comes Ube, Dragon Blade out of the way, going to be aided by that sound barrier, looking for the right opportunity. The defensive Graviton comes in. Grim, big bang, takes down Reels from it early on, but Ube in the backline, Dragon Blade still looking for the kill, almost gets the Rhine, does get the Rhine with a little bit of help from Flippy, and LG Loyal still very much able to take this fight, and they will. Now the question is for Immortals, can they delay this enough to get everyone back? Agility's still trying, he launches himself! He gets deflected away!
Oh, that's beautiful. That was their only hope to stall out and prevent it from getting captured. Now fully into their favor, 99%. We are in overtime. A hammer down comes in, but too late. Ube on the cleanup has been so brilliant this entire series.
Who wouldn't have thought that a Roadhog could launch himself that far, but hey, the power of science, or the power of a good deflect. Ube getting last little bit of cleanup here, makes it a triple before it's all said and done. And Matt, hang on, a little bit of extra delay coming in here. Nope, Agility's down. It's just the sub.
Finishing fights, LG Loyal, and by extension, Ube. That is what has been the difference for them tonight. Still alive here on Nepal as they will grab one stage. What do you think went wrong for Immortals there? Overall, they looked weaker.
Well, part of why they looked weaker is that LG Loyal came out with a much heavier dive composition, and it changed up what you're expecting as we get to see a replay of the Roadhog space program there.
He did go into orbit. Still good. But it was a crucial deflect, absolutely. We've seen some clutch deflects over the weekend. Genjis are really leveling up their play as far as deflects go. Now that one's not ultra impressive, but we saw some stuff over the weekend of deflecting after hooks and things like that. There is still a ceiling on Genji that people have not even approached.
So we are coming back in the village here, and this has said a lot about control, but more so here, given how you're playing McCree, it's really important that LG Loyal takes his first fight. If they take that, Grim is probably going to be forced off to McCree. Here we go. They're moving in very early on. Grim under heavy pressure from Pluke, as Pluke forces Immortals back. Gonna create more space here from LG Loyal in on the high ground. Still a 5v5 fight. Pluke gave his life for that bit of distraction. And with Reels going down, this still could work out, but no, LG Loyal, they bring it back. It's Hedan taking Hyped out, trading out 1-for-1. But again, we're getting to this fight that's more lower numbers, and Grim was very good in this situation last time.
Oh, beautiful. Finds Ube, who was going to be a problem for him, dispatches him quickly. Oh, just a quick flick onto Spree and Hedan while I'm at it. Grim's McCree, a problem. They need to find an answer. He is the answer to, in theory, the answer to this dive composition. The flankers, we've seen anti-flanker McCree's run wild and taken down Ube and Spree in 2 shots.
It is an answer, and then it's not at the same time, because if you're able to dive in on the McCree, well, McCree doesn't have the tools to take down both at the same time under most circumstances.
Right.
So it's a matter of prioritization here, and LG Loyal was not great at that for the last village stage, so we'll see what happens here. Agility's going awfully far up, looking for the pickoff, and he's going to connect. Reels getting taken down. This is going to be a Lucio-less push from LG, and, well, we see how that ends as Grim takes down 3. Electric Cowboy in the house.
Grim's running wild, this stage in particular. You get a double kill on the Deadeye there. They haven't had a great answer to it, and they haven't really committed as much as they need. Of course, losing Reels there hurts that you're not able to speed boost in the way you'd like to get on Grim, but he's also getting support of his own. As long as Hype doesn't freelance too often, the jump in comes up to go up top, but it leaves them all alone, exposed on the bottom. Grim takes down Flippy.
Flippy dying early is absolutely terrible here for LG Loyal. Look at Grim. He has so much space right now. He has, I mean, he could make an apartment here. It's ridiculous how much room he's being given. You can't be doing this for LG Loyal. And now they're running out of time here, Hex.
I don't think of cowboys in apartments. More like sleeping under the stars, wrangling cattle.
He's classy.
I think we have a sitcom in the making. Just for, a fish out of water type sitcom. 75% for Immortals as they look to hold on and win this stage. Agility is trying to go with it. Here comes a blade.
Ube coming in, gonna be stymied a bit by the Dragon Blade, but does find Ethan, who wasn't protected. Now, Ube looking for a little bit more 6v5 opportunity from Loyal. He's pulling it back a bit, and there's the Earth Shadow from Nomi. Gonna be knocking down 3, looking over the intimidating Reinhardt, just walking in. Agility's gonna get a little bit extra of the cleanup there, and now 94%. This very well could be the round for Immortals. We'll see if LG Low can do anything to delay it, but probably not gonna happen.
The only one who has spawned is Pluke, not able to get there quickly enough. Immortals will take a map and avoid the sweep at the hands of LG Loyal. Found a different gear, but largely because of Grim Reality's McCree.
Well, I think the thing that stood out to me is that compared to what we saw from LG Loyal, back on Eichenwald, back on Anubis, LG Loyal was not getting decisive engages and their prioritization was not there. Conversely, Immortals was, I want to say they were protecting Grim, but in reality, we just saw Grim off on his own. It didn't feel like that was a result of heavy protection there, more so just the front line of Immortals causing enough distress to LG Loyal that they didn't feel they could get on the Grim.
It was odd target selection because you saw the Winston jump in a couple times after Hype had left. Hype was going on his own way, and then Winston jumped onto Hype. It was like he could not help but jumping onto the Devo, whereas Grim had been left alone in that circumstance. There were times where they just didn't commit as much as you needed to it. He was very clearly the problem, and I guess they did the thing where you either put him as priority 1 or priority 6. Didn't work. Didn't work at all.
It did not work out in the end, as it turns out. And I mean, I think he really just showed us why you have to focus him down. I mean, he got that triple headshot, like 3 right in a row, and I'm just completely astounded. That said, MVP maybe for the first 2 maps that they were able, or the rounds that they were able to pick up, maybe Agilities. Agilities also had a great game. How does having those 2 threats make each of them stronger?
Well, I mean, the key for Agilities there is that the times where they did try and dive onto Grim, he was there with the punish on the Pluke most of the time. So it's good to have that security blanket there where he can be consistent. Did freelance a bit to find support kills, which worked out. I think there was one flank in particular that was probably a little bit too far out, but I mean, Agilities played consistent. I still feel like the bigger story here, though, is just the idea where LG Loyal looked a little bit lost in how they want to engage on this and make Immortals adapt to them.
Yeah, and that's something we've critiqued them for, that killer instinct, so to speak. And we saw it maybe a little bit more on those first 2 maps, but now that Immortals is really stepping it up, we're going to have to see if they can bring that back. And maybe it is just the fact that it's control point. We're going to be going to Dorado next. This is a map that both of these teams have favored in the past, but we've actually seen mixed picks from each of them coming into map number 4. This one was picked by LG Loyal. So talk us through this map.
Well, it's very simple as to why they're picking it here, because you look at Immortals, they have put in immense amount of homework onto Gibraltar. Even though at one point going into this tournament, thought Immortals would love being on Dorado all the time. Well, Immortals has really taken to running a more aggressive Gibraltar defense, trying to make that their thing. So if you look at what Immortals likes running, you definitely want to bring them to Dorado just to get them off their comfort map in Gibraltar.
Prior to the dive they pulled off on Eichenwald, LG Loyal's signature dive came on Dorado where everything went perfectly for them. Spree came over the top. They were running the Farah there too. I would love to see them go back to being ultra aggressive. And I also think this is a map that if Immortals does not run the aggressive defense early on, you can run Flippy on a Widow here. Widow on Dorado traditionally has been very good offensively, even sometimes defensively. So I think this is a good pick for LG Loyal. But it is, again, about the execution because they have all the pieces to run the dive, and I've seen them run dive better than any other team. And then I saw what we just saw in Nepal, which is they refuse to dive, do not prioritize the right targets.
Yeah, and honestly, dive definitely works very different on control point maps compared to payload and hybrid maps. And so I also think that it'd be interesting to see how Flippy plays into this equation because that first point in Nepal, they brought Spree, Ube, and on the the Farah combo with the Genji, and then they had Tracer for Flippy. I'd be curious to see if maybe they switch things around a little bit and get that pick potential that we saw there on Hanamura because, yeah, Flippy turns out he may be feeling hot today. He had a lot of great plays on Widow. As you know, that's always exciting. Another question, and I actually wrote this down earlier. This is something I feel like I always write this down or think about it, is Grim Reality. why are you not just playing McCree all the time? And that's partially tongue-in-cheek, rhetorical, but partially real. Like, why don't we see him on McCree more?
Well, part of it is that when teams dive on a McCree properly, McCree does not have the escape options that a 76 has. 76, of course, can sprint away, can self-heal. McCree is far more vulnerable. And a lot of times for Grim, you're not getting entirely the support that you might get from other teams where even you look at the last round, you weren't seeing Grim being babysat the entire time. Grim likes freelancing a lot. And if you like freelancing, sometimes you can have big plays on McCree, but a lot of the times a freelance on McCree is very high risk for sometimes medium to high reward. I think overall, for how he likes flanking around, it's probably been that flank style as to why we see him on 76 more often.
I think when we started in the control map, it was very much just comfort picks of our backs are against the wall, let's play what we're best at. And then when he moseys up on the stairs and no one's there and they're on the other side of the map and he looks around and all he sees a tumbleweed roll by and he's just taking shots, he's like, I guess they're going to let me do whatever I want. I'll stick on this McCree. But there are situations where McCree simply doesn't work, where you just don't get the space or the other team takes it away from you knowing it's your best pick. There, he had everything he wanted there because just picking off people from a long range, never touched, and then just stayed on the entire time.
Well, and Dorado has some interesting, I think it's an interesting map as far as spacing and positioning goes, because on this first point, you got a little bit of that early high ground. More teams these days have been either playing that hyper-aggressive defense on first or playing a little bit back, and so we'll see how maybe if he brings that in the free range that is the first point. But then, of course, on second, you've got a lot of high ground that we've seen Immortals use. Well, they're going to have to bring something strong here to LG Loyal's map pick in Dorado. As Immortals, they need to find victory here and bring it to a map number 5. Gentlemen, take it away on Dorado.
Well, that is Dorado. That is gracing your screens right now. The beautiful, clean power of Lumerico Corporation building a better future for tomorrow. They definitely paid me a large sum to say that. Wait, am I supposed to say that they didn't pay me?
Clean power powered by dirty people. There's no such thing as a free power meal, ZP. And I didn't get your check, so I will speak freely. I was not bought off. Free Dorado. Or something like that. Defensively, Grim is not going to run the McCree because they're not going to hold far enough back. The only place you can run McCree on this first point defense is in the back of courtyard, and you still need help. And especially knowing a team that's going to dive you like LG Loyal, that's not going to be the case. LG Loyal is going to put Flippia on the Hanzo, at least for a Sonic Arrow. They are expecting an aggressive defense, so they want to get some eyes on it, I believe.
Well, as far as it goes here, LG Loyal is running a good setup here to an aggressive defense where they have the ability to aggress back in just as hard. And of course, they're not going to be dealing with that aggressive defense. Immortals ran this, what?
By Spree.
What? Okay, that was a jetpack malfunction. Spree clearly not at fault. Take that up with whoever is supplying Farah her defensive gear.
That was odd, to say the least. Flippy in all sorts of trouble will finally go down as Hype dashes across there. So they're playing kind of a weird hybrid of this. When they see an opening and they see someone weak, they will dive on it up front, but not holding necessarily on the very forward rooftops.
Well, suffice to say that opening the LG Loyal definitely did not suit their purposes super well. They're going to have to regroup here, as this time they hope Spree's jetpack does work well. LG Loyal looking for decisive engage, but they're a little bit all over the place here. Blue didn't dive on the A1, has to back out, and Spree gonna dive for free more towards the back. A little bit awkward beginning here for LG Loyal.
Yeah, and you see right there, Graham able to escape a lot more of this pressure on the 76. He's got retreat options, he's got his own healing, and now they're gonna flip the switch, turn back around, finish off those stragglers. So far, the dive not as coordinated as you'd like to see. Spree going down early, and then they jump on Grim with the Winston. You want those things to happen at the exact same time. They're gonna switch it up here. They're getting off dive, Spree rotates over to Zarya.
I just feel like both teams have completely flipped where they're at, because now it's LG Loyal that's coming in very piecemeal, not at the same time Immortals that's running a very convincing defense here that's prioritizing targets far better. But here we go, it's gonna be Immortals diving in deep for this fight, but LG Loyal with the immediate punish. Ube pulls out the blade, doesn't get as much as he wants, so this Grim pulls out the tag and takes down 3. The counter is there, and Grim pulling that fight back.
We've seen Tactical Visor be, wow, by Flippy. We've seen Tactical Visor be a great counter to a jumping Genji with the sword out. As long as deflect is down and Soldier can sprint away long enough and bait it out, he's gonna win that fight more often than not. It's really up to the Genji to make that Soldier go down before He's able to target him, but it has been all Immortals on this defense. Cart just under the archway. The dive comes in, but again, it's a solo dive. There's no synchronization here. They do try to follow it up. No kills so far.
No kills to start things out here. Agility's going to mix space here with the whole hog. And it might be enough here. 2 kills coming out here for Immortals, but Ube still in the back. Gonna have to find help before he can do a whole lot else. It's only Ube and Flippy still up and around here, and yet Flippy getting cleanup kills, creating space perhaps for LG Loyal to keep pressure on the cart right now.
His little bit of spice. Hyped is coming in from behind. Flippy has been taken out by Nomi, so now Hype does not have to worry about his opposing number. Trying to get a lot of damage. Cute play, shooting below the cart. Those are sight lines for sure. Trying to find space for this pulse bomb. They're getting some free push here, and now reinforcements coming in for LG Loyal.
America coming out here from Immortals. They're going to try and clear out LG Loyal from this courtyard. Hype, pulse bomb into that, connects, down goes Hedon. Immortals just stopping LG Loyal from getting what they want. We're down to under a minute left here. LG Loyal has a mere 1 last attack. And after that, this could be a full hold for Immortals.
He didn't stick Hedon there, but Hedon also under a lot of pressure had to mosey over that bomb. And you're right, this could definitely be a full hold for Immortals. Agility is onto the Pharah, providing all sorts of pressure. They've taken so much entry damage this entire game. Again, Winston's gonna jump up over the top. No one is coming with him.
And now, here comes LG Loyal. They will have to use a Nano Blade to really break this wide open. Here comes Ube. Nano Blade in play, but the barrage in from Joldies takes down 2, now 3. Ube, we'll see if he can equalize it out, but it's going to be tough. He does take down 3 of his own. Joldies and Ube, some of the last here on the point, and Ube, though, was a good Dragon Blade, and Joldies just doing too much with that barrage to keep back LG Loyal, and now Immortals well positioned to even up the series.
Sounds reductive, sounds repetitive, but you can't dive with just a Winston. And too few times did he have support with him there to take down an isolated target. Let me ask you this, ZP. Who was their primary target in that dive composition?
It didn't really look like they had one.
That is pretty much what I was alluding to, all over the place. And this is something we've seen from Loyal time and again. They run one of the best dive compositions, and it looks so good at times. And then they seem to fall apart, and I can't explain it.
You know that picture where Jackie Chan is just sitting there, just looking incredibly confused? That's me for LG Loyal right now. I don't understand. We've seen them run incredibly convincing dives on Dorado, where Spree had phenomenal initiation. He was on the same page with Pluke, and they were able to take down Courtyard decisively. And that was all over the place. I mean, maybe you see Spree falling into the pit unaided as sort of a karmic thing there, but
well, quick, name 5 Overwatch players who aren't Jackie Chan.
Okay, IDD, QD, Tavik, Jackie Chan.
You were so close. So close. Yeah, you went right for the Swedes. I thought you were going to stay on the Swede track. I thought you were going to glide that one in home.
I kind of wanted to. I was thinking, it's like, how can I make this entertaining? It's like, no, I'm just going to go for Jackie Chan on 3rd. That's it.
Oh, Jackie on 3rd indeed. Well, very easy path to victory here for Immortals. Just have to get the cart a little past the archway, not even all the way through the courtyard. Defensively, they're not going to run a Symmetra or anything like that, which sometimes you'll see teams desperately do here when you have to hold so far forward, can't give up that ground. But this has been a tale of maps so far. It seems like Loyal falling off, Immortals gotten better. Not sure exactly what I'm seeing this evening, but a triple tank combination will come in for Loyal as they look to defend here outside of the archway. Can't give up a lot of free push. Grim back on McCree.
And this is not a payload that has to go very far here for Immortals. Their great defense to start things out here has made their offense relatively stress-free. Not that you couldn't have a counter full point hold here, but it's going to be very difficult for LG Loyal. If they lose even a single team fight, this one's going to be over.
Well, Grim trying to get a little poke in. He's rolling around by himself, making sure that his spurs don't jingle jangle. Agilities checks the doorway for him. Maybe trying to bait someone in here. That is the bait. They do find the Soldier 76. That's a bait dive if I've ever seen one. Ube will take out Grim with a hook, though.
That's okay, though, and we have a very quick Dragon Blade. Agility Zori busted it out incredibly fast. Picks up 2, looking for more. Gets a 3K before falling. He built up one of the fastest Dragon Blades I've seen here on Dorado. And Immortals so close to that yellow box victory. Spree, one of the last people alive here on the point. Gonna try and pull this back here with Flippy, but they're against very uneven numbers. Spree's going to fall, and Immortals might have just pulled this one back. 2-2. We'll find out in a moment as LG Loyal, last gasp coming in.
Gonna have to be some heroics here. They do have a lot of numbers on the point. Ube has gotten onto the Sombra just to get back to the point quicker. Tries to get invisible, but cannot stay invisible against bullets. We're going to a game number 5. Did not expect this one. After our first 2 games, I expected a 3-0 in the shortest of orders. Immortals brought it back.
I mean, there would be some karma here, right? Where LG Loyal reverse swept Immortals back in week 1. Now in week 5, we have Immortals on the verge of reverse sweeping LG Loyal. Very little makes sense anymore.
Well, the only thing that has been consistent throughout the night is that it's still a rough world in which to be a pumpkin. Nearly all of our play of the games have carved them up. Speaking of carving up, Agility's getting in here. It was such a cool bait. It was so cool to see Agilities and Grim work that out because Agility showed himself, check that corner, Grim sneaking up there, get the flashbang, really kicked off that whole fight.
It didn't even work out as well as it could have. They were able to get the kill, and, it wasn't the cleanest kill, but then they just followed it through with so much more.
Let me ask you this, though. Does LG Loyal take the title for most heartbroken fans if they don't take the series? I mean, Liquid has had some pretty epic teases over time where they've thrown away series, but to be as dominant as LG Loyal was for maps 1 and 2, just completely taking it to Immortals, and then have a sudden just polarity shift here where Immortals is playing far better and LG Loyal is playing far worse, it's difficult to see this level of shift within a single series because it's not just map-specific things here. It's literally just the coordination for both teams flipping on its sides. I don't even know.
A Liquid heart cannot break any longer. It has simply been replaced by all scar tissue. It no longer hurts. So yes, they would replace it as the fresh wound in the scene. It's very difficult to be a fan of LG Loyal right now. It's just confusing. It hurts your brain.
No, I'll tell you, I loved watching Agilities, though, on the other side of things. Played the Pharah, and I feel like the caster curse come into full effect. The one match we're like, well, they don't really have a Pharah player, and immediately I'm proven wrong. I mean, he has played Pharah in the past.
He won Oasis for them on Pharah.
Yeah, and he showed that he can actually play it really well. And then, of course, that Genji play at the very end, definitely hard to beat as we're now 2-2. And one thing that we didn't talk about earlier as far as map selection goes is the way that this worked out, the fact that Immortals had to win the last 2 maps, they did not get to select this 5th and potentially, basically final map. And it is going to be something they have not been strong on. Do I have any guesses as to the map that they are on?
Well, as far as where we would go here, I mean, I guess Hollywood.
Yeah,
I saw it anytime. I was going to guess Hollywood
lobby.
anyways before I looked at it.
Okay, I believe you because, Immortals has not fared well on Hollywood lately. I think the last time, though, that we saw them here was against LG Evil, and that was when they were each at a dip and a peak, so it could be a little different, but...
Well, neither team wants to go to Kings because LG Loyal's 0-4 on Hollywood in this tournament, too, so neither team very good at it. And yeah, I peeked at it. I'm the kind of kid who peeks his presence on Christmas Eve.
You could just pretend like it. They don't know. The audience has no idea.
I cannot betray my audience like that.
Hex was actually the guy who, on the release of Harry Potter Book 6, told everyone that Snape killed Dumbledore.
Wow.
Ooh, spoiler. Harry who? Is that some sort of book?
Something like that.
I was going to say spoiler alert and get really angry, but Harry Potter's been out for a little bit, so I think
you have no one to blame but yourself at this point.
So the books and the movies, in fact. But it's 2-2, and we are going to be going into a map number 5 between these teams, and I'm sure there's going to be some amazing plays as of yet to be tweeted about. So make sure you're on the Tweetoverse. Tweeting with the hashtag OCS plays for your chance at some swag, as well as a shot to get your tweet on stream here. And I other than that, Hollywood, let's just talk a little bit about these teams on Hollywood. Obviously, Immortals most known historically for having issues on second, especially. But in recent history against LG Evil, they were actually pushed back into their spawn, and they were having a hard time breaking in onto first. How does LG Evil and this LG Loyal roster differ as far as play style that would allow Immortals to maybe have a different game?
Well, I don't think this LG Loyal team is anywhere near as versatile as the LG Evil team, and I would say that the style they play in Hollywood is very different. We've seen this LG Loyal team on Hollywood, and granted the results are 0-4, they speak for themselves, but they've been trying Widowmaker, and Widowmaker is, even though 0-4, that's not all of Flippy. He has not been there for all of them, and Widowmaker is kind of the thing you can throw at it, and if team's not prepared, you can win just off that.
So I have to be this guy here because no one else is mentioning it here, but do I have to be the one that mentions Spree just abandoning the payload in epic fashion, because when I think LG Loyal in Hollywood, it's hard to get that part out of my mind.
We saved that one for you. We know how you like that so
I knew
much.
you wanted to talk about that. It's all according to plan.
That said, when you take a look at this here, I do think that when you look at how Immortals is playing back earlier in the series, on maps like Eichenwald, there is potential for Immortals to get completely desynced here, where when things go badly, it goes badly because Grim does get desynced with the rest of his team. He goes off on flanks. The depth of the map perhaps not working out to his favor as he goes too far around. I think for Immortals, the key here is to just get that out of their system, which if you take a look at Dorado, it did feel like they did. So it's been a tale of two different teams so far on both sides.
I think getting a couple of map wins under your belt will help a soldier stay a little more at home, not have to feel like they have to do too much. That has been the bane of several Soldier 76s throughout Overwatch lately, is they're doing so well with their team, their long-range tracking is on point, they're doing consistent damage, and then they say, hold on, guys, I got this one. And they go for an enormous flank, and either they get something, which is fine, or it completely derails their team. Hopefully, we will not see that from either of our Soldier 76s. I do believe we'll probably have one on both sides here. I wish they would release some of the movies that they tease in Hollywood. I would watch that 6-gun shooter.
You've been fascinated by
I
the
love
6-gun
that
killer
poster.
going all the way back to our very first cast. So at the very least, I hope that one gets thrown out there.
It just reminds me of one of those really campy movies in the 80s called Puppet Master. There was a puppet just like that. I'm sorry, I'm nostalgic about things that not everyone else is. Mostly terrible horror movies in the 80s. Hopefully not a horror movie for LG Loyal here, as they were up 2-0, now tied with Immortals on our 5th map. Both teams running pretty standard compositions here.
Well, it's standard compositions, definitely not the divey stuff that we've seen teams been running here in Hollywood recently. Much more standard in regards to tank play. And a lot here is going to come down to Ube versus Agilities getting hooks off of the shield battle, and Immortals just walking right up. No chill whatsoever here. They just want to get onto that point immediately, and they pick off one to start things out. Grim on the flippy early on here, 5v5, hype piling on, and LG Loyal just getting a bit run over here.
The problem is they took down Nomi, and who should be taking advantage of that is their Soldier 76, but Flippy died in the same breath as that happened, so no one able to capitalize on the shield war. One for LG Loyal. Now that is not where you want to be as a support in the back corner. They've got the numbers advantage here. Reinforcements are coming out for Loyal. They need a hero play.
Well, they are coming out, and Flippy just, his hero play was eating a lot of bullets from Grim Reality there. Just too many people on the point. Not much he could do. He had to touch the point to begin with. But Immortals, looking like a different team here, just mechanically outplaying LG Loyal there. There's not much else to say. When your soldier wins the soldier battle, you win the shield battle, it just snowballed from there. Now, Grim, a little bit too far out, gets taken out. This is where Immortals sometimes struggles. Here on second, we'll see if we get a better turnabout here from Loyal. They might have defensive Graviton up and at the ready. The Graviton's gonna come in. 3 people there. Is the fall through gonna happen?
There is some. Agilities and Ethan will both go down, and now they're backed into the room. They are getting pushed back. The question is, how far does LG Loyal push here? Getting free spam right now. This is not necessarily a spawn hold. No, they will back off. That is something that they have not added to their game as well. Most teams are trying, at least toying a little bit with spawn camping tactics. LG Loyal does not seem to subscribe to that.
LG Loyal is not going right to spawn door, but they have so many tools. Both teams have. This is going to be explosive. 6 ults versus 5 ults. Opens up with the Graviton from the side of Immortals. The Sound Barrier going to mitigate a lot of that. LG Loyal still standing. They can re-engage onto this fight. Hook and a miss here from Ube. LG Loyal getting pushed back a bit. We'll see if they re-engage, but no. Grim off the flank, out of the saloon, moving in and picks up 3. That's going to be decisive for Immortals.
I like that flank because it's with the rest of his team. Yes. Flippy does try to equalize it up. Verbo and Ethan do go down, so that is 2 supports, but not enough as all the remainder of Immortals will continue pushing forward. That's a medium-level flank. It's not right with your team. It's not a mile away. It's right where the fight is actually occurring. That's beautiful.
It's not Grim taking this elevator to start out that fight while everyone else is fighting a mile behind.
Exactly.
Which we have seen before, so it's a little bit more compact. Next fight, though, already going to be underway. LG Loyal trying to re-establish pretty quickly, not giving it up as much as they could. But look at Grim right now. There's absolutely nothing that can get on him as the Earth Shatter connects. Nomi going to be knocking down 3.
How does Real stay alive there? All right, finally goes down. He was the prime target laying on the ground. Grim Reality alone on the high ground. I've espoused my opinions about that one too many times. Someone has to answer him. He's not even being looked at.
No one cares about Grim, and Bible thumps that all day long, but he is definitely taking out his frustrations on the entirety of the LG Loyal team here. that's, you just can't let a soldier do that much. It's terrible.
Well, he's up from his nap now, and he is cranky as he's continuing to shoot unfettered up top. I mean, I am going to have to get that tattoo, right? Don't leave Grim alone on the high ground. It's the only way to get people to notice.
Right next to a tattoo of grilled cheese sex is the only way. But Immortals with relentless momentum here, catching LG Loyal off guard in the position game, and there's a deep charge from Nomi. Catches Ube out of nowhere. Leonardo DiCaprio somewhere smiling at how deep Immortals is going here, and why not? They're still picking up kill after kill as LG Loyal just staggering.
They should just chill in their spawn, take a moment, take a break, take a breather, hang out for a second. Instead, they're going to try to take high ground alone. They do have time to reestablish here. You don't always want to fight around first bend anyway. You can fight in the long hallway. Grim finally taken down as he was pressuring Flippy. Now both those two up have to rejoin the team. It seems like, I don't want to speak too soon, it seems like perhaps they've stabilized.
Well, they better be stabilized now if they have 4 ultimates in reserve for defense. If they were to lose this next fight, it'd be tough. So, at the very least, LG Loyal should be able to convert these ultimates into a team fight win coming in here. And here comes the Graviton, fall through, coming in. It's going to be a Reinhardt charge and a whole hog just to make sure. And that's actually pretty good here for LG Loyal because they're able to save the Nano Visor. They can convert that on the next fight. It's solid.
It's very good. One fight. They hadn't won a fight in a very long time, able to stabilize there and now actually bring it back to them a little bit. Pluke will have Earthshatter up for this next fight, so possibly, at this point, I think you save it for a Nano Visor. Putting it on the ground is one of the most reliable ways to deal with it. Yes, you can have your shield up too, so he's got options, but he's the person who's going to have to counter the Nano Visor. Here it comes.
Super Pluke moving in, holding on to the Earthshatter, and
Flippy
goes down very early on in this fight just from Ube, so they don't have to convert as much into that. Although, I say that, Flippy only gets 1 off that Tac Visor Nano combo, so it actually is very beneficial for Immortals. It's a good junk rush, and they're going to be able to re-engage even quicker because they only lost 1.
Yeah, the only issue I have is that Grim had used his as well. They are going to Nano this time around. No Tactical Visor incoming. Decent spread here for the defense.
Well, they're going to try and make this happen. Here comes Graviton in from Immortals, but the fall through just not there. It's going to be Ube holding things down. Nome drops a late fight Earthshatter. Knocks down 2, but there's just not the follow through at that point. Tank ultimates doing very little for Immortals because they lost players early on.
Tank ultimates you want to use if one person is down. Maybe you would, if you had your druthers, you would use them to initiate fights most of the time, although teams will play around that a great deal. Now the ult economy has swung slightly in favor of LG Loyal as they've got a couple up. Nothing for the side of Immortals as they're making a few changes. Agility's going to move over onto the Genji. Starts it off with a nice kill.
Real's out by himself, just getting punished. I'm not sure why he was there, but Immortals taking good advantage. That said, Spree firing right back, takes down 2. Eden keeping the team nice and healthy as that Graviton connects. Spree gonna have 3, if not 4, before it's all said and done, and LG Loyal able to hold back Immortals once more.
Just over 90 seconds left for Immortals to finish out this map. They have stagnated over the last several minutes after winning first and going all the way to pretty much where you're seeing them fight now, rather unopposed, but they've had a difficult time finding the high ground or taking the high ground away. I think that's one of the reasons they put agilities on this Genji. Grim was running wild on the high ground before, but it's been Flippy with the defender's advantage actually doing a lot of work on his Soldier 76.
Immortals now trying to get through here. No ultimates on deck. Gonna have to look out for the Earthshatter and Tac Visor. Gonna put a lot of pressure on agilities to find someone in the back for an early pickoff, but Immortals still walking through. Now they have a Tac Visor of their own. The Earthshatter comes down from Fluke and doesn't connect as much as they want. Still though, Flippy in over the top. Gonna try and pull this back with the flanking Tac Visor and takes down 2. 2 very big kills at that. So even though Immortals is still up here, Grim finishing a bit stronger. And Immortals now have the chance of getting a little bit more payload push and perhaps momentum to the end.
Now they found a couple of LG Loyal members in the corner. That is a staggered couple of kills from Ube and Reels who had not fallen back far enough to get there. The charge comes off the cart. Grim's gonna push this last final, but no! Pluke gets back here just in time.
And now they have the Mei. It's a last minute Mei stall coming up, but he falls immediately. Immortals still applying pressure on the cart. 5 people up and around. LG Loyal desperately trying to delay it out, and it's not gonna happen. Immortals finishing out Hollywood with 36 seconds left.
It's 26 seconds, maybe. Let's fight about it.
Was it 26?
It's a huge
I'm
deal.
blaming my vision here, if that is the case. Okay, it's 26.
I knew I'd be right about something insignificant this evening. There it is. Chalk it up. It's the last time I'll be right tonight.
Well, for me, I'm just blaming my terrible vision because that monitor is a little bit away.
Well, I think it was a tale of different high grounds there, and where Grim was able to take high ground early on, especially that very first fight, he won against Flippy. And then even though they got the shield on, didn't matter, because no one's up to take advantage of it with that shield being down. Then on second, they roll through, Grim puts on his cloak of invisibility and is able to sit on high ground forever. No one even looks at him. And then you have the natural defender's advantage of last, where Flippy was able to get up top. Once they found the hero combinations to deal with Flippy up top, Grim goes down below, and that's it. That's the end of the map.
Well, it's been certainly back and forth between these two teams. I will say that defensively, LG Loyal can make something happen with this. Yes, they're going to have to complete the map, but they did defend long enough that where time bank-wise, they can get a reasonable advantage. So we'll see how this works out. For me, the big question mark is going to be Immortals' defense, especially as it gets in the second. How do they handle that first to second transition, where historically they have had trouble there in throwing good money after bad?
Absolutely. Where will they reestablish on Hollywood second is the concern for Immortals. If they even need a Hollywood second, very possible they could hold at first. The setup for them is going to be 3 tanks and a DPS. That will be Grim Reality on the DPS. Of course, Agilities will be trying to help out with the flat cannon. On the other side of things, as pure a dive as you can run for the most part, Spree will be over top on the Pharah. Hidan now on the Zenyatta. This has worked well for them before, but, you know, it also has worked not so well for them before. Loyal, a mystery.
I think it's fine in terms of isolating targets, especially for Spree. Spree isn't going to have the security blanket of a Mercy, but someone who's Discord Orb is a much easier kill for a Pharah coming in over the top. So we'll see if Spree is able to make the most of this with the Zenyatta support. He's going straight in. Spree in over the top, looking for those rockets to begin things out, and doesn't commit as heavily to the dive, but that's fine because Pluke hasn't gone in yet. Now LG is going to commit.
A half-hearted dive. They do not focus on the cafe as they did not see anyone up there who is below the stairs, and that is Agilities taking down Ube. That is a big part of their dive. However, they isolate Nomi. They've lost 2 here. They're already in, though. They have to stay in very low. Flippy, the only one getting a couple kills. They've gotten 3 here.
Well, Grim, again, just uncontested in over the top. Actually going to take the fight to Tracer here. The reason being, needed contest on the point, and he finds Flippy towards the very end. So I do find it interesting that we have this dive coming in, and Grim is still being unscathed. Spree didn't even consider going in on him.
I don't think he saw him. Grim was sitting in the lowest part of the cafe, under the stairs, just barely poking out. He does not want to show himself. He doesn't want to give them the target. He is the prime target, and he knows it.
Well, next dive coming in here from LG Loyal, hoping to be a little bit more successful this time. But again, there's a bit of a disconnect between the Winston, the Genji, and the Pharah. And as a result, Grim and Agility is going to be punishing that. Grim still very much alive and gets a 3K. 2 down with 1 Helix rocket in both their supports. That's devastating. As Spree now going off on a bit of an adventure.
Spree trying to join the walking tour of Goldshire Studios that went through earlier before they cleared out for this battle. Ube's gotten hooked in twice each time as he's gone in here on his Genji. He's got to be much more aware of where this Roadhog is. It can't happen again.
Well, Spree, I think, is still in the backline somewhere. Immortals is looking for him. Grim right now just dealing with the Winston in his face, going to get supported by Hyped. Down goes Pluke, and I still have no idea where Spree is. Maybe he'll be back to fight in a moment, but already you're down your Winston, and Immortals just counter-diving into LG Loyal.
Spree is filling out an application to be a production assistant at one of the studios back there. Still, it is lengthy paperwork. Real's getting chased down. Hyped, not necessarily the charge we're used to him seeing, but that's a late kill. Spree does finally go down off camera. Despite being at the movie studios, no cameras catch that action. Now it's getting down to it. They are a little over 90 seconds to push through here. Ultimate phase of the game incoming. Ube is going to have to pull some miracles here. Flippy on the Diva of all things.
Well, I want to see yours from Hype because Hype has Graviton up here. How is he going to handle this defensive grab? He's moving in, looking for the grab. Almost goes down before shooting it, and there's the grab. Going to be pulling in 3. Fall through coming in onto that grab, but it's not enough. Here comes the sound bear from LG Loyal, and the counter engage working out here as they look to take things down, but I'm not sure it's enough. Ube gets picked off by Ethan, and that advantage that they had, they don't press it. And the sound bearer mostly goes to waste after the Graviton.
The Diva did a great job there, eating most of that whole hog, which was supposed to be the follow-up for the Graviton, but they did not expect the Diva to be there. The Diva is trying to save people from the Roadhog hooks, I have to imagine, then perhaps to shut down Grim Reality. They are doubling down on the tank dive-in because they've so far been unable to find Grim. I don't think he's died so far in this half.
All right, well, LG Loyal now with under a minute left to go. They look so strong to start the series, but this could be the reverse sweep for Immortals.
Agilities.
They just need a little bit more. Agilities sacrificing his life to take down Hidan. They're going to be down to support for this final push as LG Loyal, they do take down 2, hyped a little bit far out, so I do wonder if Immortals has pushed their luck a little bit much here, as now LG Loyal is going to get this final attempt to take first, and they're being far more decisive in the Cafe. 3 in on the Cafe, and Spree hitting pay dirt on these rockets. Gets 1, gets 2, and this payload might get moving after all.
That shutdown in Grim was absolutely crucial as he had gotten the boost as well, so it was going to be hard to take him down, but Spree now running wild through the air. Just a Tracer left, but she's going to think better of going a 1v4. No real reason to even stall out. They're going to give up first point here. No ultimates on either side of the field. It's going to be Spree trying to snowball this advantage, get as much damage as he can, and take rooftops away from the defense.
Now for LG Loyal, they only have 2 minutes, 15 seconds left. Not a lot of room for error here as they open second. And also to Immortals' credit, Immortals does not come in and feed kills trying to retake first, which means they're going to have a better defense here for second as... Well, I say that, and I don't really know why Nomi is back down here, but he's going to get supported by Hyped, and Immortals almost switching to a dive to push back LG Loyal.
With 5 kills now on the board, well, excuse me, 4. 1 was a mech, not necessarily going. Okay, now 5. They are going to be pushing them back.
That's a home run. Ferret Ball, now an actual sport. Now with 150% more ferrets.
Well, they do come in with the pulse bomb on the back. It does end up finding Ube, who has been kicked around this entire match. This camp working out very well, and at a certain point, they're going to have to start using ultimates as, again, we're below 90 seconds, and they have to hit second. They've got 1 push to get to second at this point.
Can't be good here for LG Loyal. They do have ultimates. It's going to be an ultimate showdown coming up here, but Immortals has enough to really fight it back, including the Nano Visor. So, Nano Blade versus Nano Visor going to be coming in here. Sound Bearer should give LG Loyal a bit of an advantage, but Fireball says his. Every ult on the table for both teams, both breaking it down. Ube into the back. Doesn't pull out the blade here just yet. Agilities uses it first, and Heat goes down. No Nano boost for this LG Loyal push, as Immortals now starting to clean up the scraps.
Even if they start the push now, it will be an overtime by the time we get to second. Here comes the blade from Ube with 20 HP left. Obviously, desperation time for him as he pulled it out in frustration. Cleaned up because he had no health when he used it. So very difficult for LG Loyal. Not a good look.
30 seconds remaining here for Loyal. If they're going to bring this back and not get reverse swept, everything must go right for them starting now. But look at Grim. He's out in the middle of nowhere on this flank, and yet it could work with this tac visor. Going for the tac visor. Not a lot of targets in his sights.
He knows Hidan is around somewhere. Hidan's been chasing him about.
Why, Grim? You didn't need to be this flanky with this. He used it without seeing anyone. And now, has it opened the door here for LG Loyal? We'll have to see. No, Grim taking down 2. Who needs a tac visor anyways? That's probably what Grim is thinking right now, as LG Loyal desperately struggling on the cart, Flippy on 2. And this is going to be a smaller numbers fight here as the overtime push is now in play.
Overtime commences. Grim with some lucky RNG gets the elevator, but it's going to ignore it because the fight is happening. Agilities has started it without him. Grim comes in, takes a couple down. Very desperate situation for LG Loyal as they've got a supercharged tank. They start bringing it back.
Earthshatter comes in from Fluke. Ube and the tank play of Loyal. They're staying on the cart. Fluke can't move here as both teams starting to stream back in. This is very much a lower numbers brawl going on. Ube only at 50 HP. Down he goes. Hyped. The pulse bomb gonna get the finisher. And here comes Immortals once more, trying to finish this out and complete the reverse sweep. I does be careful though. Doesn't want to throw this life away while waiting for everyone else to get back onto this payload.
Trying to get just a little poke in, buy a little bit of time. They have to know they only have to win 1 fight. Overtime in full effect here. Going to be interesting to see. They might just wait for Grim to get Tactical Visor. 8th and Arvier and Grim at 92%. That could be a closeout.
Pulse bomb can't get in for Flumpy, does not connect. Spree almost with what could be a game-sealing Graviton. I want to see what Spree is going to do here. And here comes the Graviton from Spree. Pulls in 4. Fall through coming in from Ube. Looking for a little bit more. It's getting 3 kills from LG Loyal. And they're going to keep this payload moving forward. We are not done yet.
So many ults used on the side of Immortals too to such little effect. Sound Barrier, Nano Boost, Tactical Visor, another Pulse Bomb came in. And all for naught as LG Loyal cleaned up that fight entirely. Now they get some extension, a small bit of breathing room as we have over a minute now. It's better than the zeros they had on the clock before. They're rotating up here, trying to get flanks. I've already taken away high ground to an extent. Nice peek there. They're kind of just at this standoff now. Whoever takes this high ground is going to have a huge advantage in the next fight.
And for Immortals, they desperately just want to close this out. They don't want to go to extra rounds here in Hollywood, and yet that could be in their future if LG Loyal wins this next fight. Hedan holding on to that nano boost. Pluke onto an Earth Shatter, and we'll see what Grim does here. Coming around on a flank, very much split from the rest of his team, and looking for picks on the Hedan, and gets him. 2 taps, ticks on the flippy, and suddenly Grim in a great position. He's gonna get pulled down, but has the damage been done? LG Loyal gonna have to do this short staff as they move on to last.
They will likely get another push at this, but now they're riding the momentum there, and knowing that Grim's down has to be a relief for them. They're very low on the Dragon Blade. He does end up using it anyway, goes down immediately after.
And this is crazy. LG Loyal potentially gonna pull themselves into overtime. 5 kills. The payload reaches its final destination. And I am still stunned by the shifts that we've been seeing in the series where there's not much rhyme or reason. It feels like one team goes from playing very sloppy to the other team playing sloppy, and it's just been going back and forth there, where really, after a very rough beginning, that should have been a hold for Immortals. They were in LG Loyal's spawn with under a minute to go, and then they fail to get a single stop on the payload as it goes through all of second after that point. And then defense on third, LG Loyal continues the momentum going forward, and even with Grim getting 2 kills off the flank, it's not enough to stall that out.
The tank play towards the end was really clutch for LG Loyal, keeping Pluke alive and Ube there on the carts. They got booped off, and then the presence to stay on the cart, which is not necessarily LG Loyal's strength. But yeah, I mean, it's in the corner of my eye, I see Gil, our resident left guy, just shaking his head. And that's exactly how I feel too. I have no idea. You've put it into words. This is as baffling of an Overwatch set that I've ever seen.
This has been the hardest to predict Overwatch set. Usually you can identify trends and go, this is likely to happen. We generally feel somewhat in control of the cast. I have felt utterly powerless for a good amount of the series just because of how much things have been shifting for seemingly no reason. But either way, this is coming down to the wire. Overtime between both these teams. One team going to take this out, and for LG Loyal, they're certainly hoping it is not a reverse sweep as they open up here on their attack.
Well, Grim not hiding this time, and they don't have a Pharah to really take advantage of this, so he's going to sit back up on the high ground. Ube has to be very cognizant of hooks as it deleted him a couple of times. A beautiful charge this time takes down Ube.
Ube falling here immediately. Immortals, iron defense coming out here as Grim on the cafe, not challenged the entire time. And I don't know about this from LG Loyal. I understand that their dive wasn't working out well, but are they really going to run something that's going to be giving so much space to Grim?
It's a half-committal dive anyway, and they're just dying way too early in these fights. I just don't think you can have a Genji die in the manner in which he's died here. Now they're holding right outside the gate.
I don't know why they're this far out. The defense, or the offense is going to get a chance to regroup here. They do get 2, so now suddenly you see Pluke out on his own onto the payload. He's going to fall. So Immortals, their deep diving does work out here. They're not punished, and they're going to be holding here on Hollywood. Now they get a chance on attack to finish out this map outright. If not, then we go to our tiebreaker map on Ilios.
I'm predicting a draw, and then somehow Ilios will draw, and we're going to realize at the end of this that you and I have both died overnight, and this is our purgatory. This is where we live now.
Ilios can only draw via an act of God.
Would it surprise you at this point? At this point?
That the servers would suddenly crash and Orisa would just suddenly appear out of the nothingness? No, it would not surprise me.
Oh, I feel that I am dreaming or being punished for deeds in a past life or a current life, very possible.
You've led a pretty bad current life, let's be real.
No one knows that.
I know that.
1 minute for the attack here as they just have to grab first point to put an end to this series. If they fail to do so, we will be going to a tiebreaker on Ilios. God help us all. We'll see what they want to run here. They probably only have 1, maybe 2 chances, but I think you should run something very decisive. I think you start this off with a charge from Nomi gets a bubble from Hyped, because then at least the fight is going to either conclude your way or the other way quickly, and you get another shot at it.
Immortals could just run this how they ran it before, where they just powered through LG Loyal. They won it on mechanical basis. Grim was able to take down Flippy early on.
Yeah.
I think you encourage Grim to go for that one-on-one setup and just take the shield battle as decisively as you can. LG Loyal didn't play that well last time, so I do think Immortals is in a bit of an edge here, if past experience is an indicator, which for this series it is not. We'll see how it works out here as Immortals looking for that win here. Under a minute left here on Hollywood. Time for one push, maybe two. And they're not wasting any time.
Flippy in an untraditional spot on the elevator up top. He's going to hit a giant helix onto Graham early to start that fight, but neither Soldier 76 down as Graham has to back out. Graham now definitely in their sights as they bully him off atop. A beautiful sleep dart will keep Graham from getting hooked as they try to reset here. 2 down, they're gonna wait and go for another push, but being chased down, there goes Hyplate.
Is going to leave them with one final attempt. They're lucky that they did have a little bit more than a minute left, which gives them more room here. That 10 seconds actually very crucial, and LG Loyal has to be careful not to be this far out. They don't have any ultimates they can really convert onto this. They need to back out in the good defensive positionings. It does appear they're doing just that. 12 seconds left. Immortals going to need to touch the point, but here they go. Final fight coming onto way. Can Immortals seal the deal and complete the reverse sweep? You see them going into the cafe immediately as Flippy gets domed. It's a beautiful execution between Grim and Agilities. And now, 2 unanswered kills by Immortals, starting to roll into this LG Loyal backline. Luke drops a hammer, but I don't know if that's gonna be enough to pull this back.
Pretty solid retreat there from Grim, sensing he was in trouble. Agilities now getting dash resets, taking over. That is 4 straight kills for Agilities.
And that could be the series. Immortals fighting back. Agilities with those dash resets at the end. Overtime now ticking away as LG Loyal trying to stall this out. They're going to lose Flippy. They're going to get a little bit of last moment delay here, but Immortals looking like they have sealed this. The reverse sweep is going to happen. Karma is a thing. Immortals getting revenge for week 1, avenging themselves against LG Loyal in what is probably one of the more bizarre sets I have seen in Overwatch in quite a long time.
The only thing that would make sense is if a pumpkin gets killed on the play of the game. It's the only thing that is basing this in any sort of reality I'm familiar with.
Did that pumpkin used to be a coach for LG Loyal to start out the series?
See, there it is. All right, so this is reality. Agilities, this is the very end, I believe. These are the dash resets we're talking about. Just chunking through people.
Nano Boost, of course, playing a big deal in that. You don't always need a blade to go with the Nano Boost. Sometimes just the boost alone is enough.
Well, and if you're getting those resets, it certainly doesn't hurt. And Agilities, maybe again, we don't really do MVPs, but he played really strong. But I did shake my head a little bit in that one because here's what I saw. I saw Immortals doing what I can best describe as pulling an LG Loyal. And that is, at the very last minute, somehow changing what has been working and just defending on point. They put hype on Tracer, and they decided to go aggro D. And they did make it work in that last defense. But break it down for me. Why was this much closer than we expected it to be this last map?
Well, going into the series as a whole, I mean, the reason why this has been so perplexing for me is that usually when you get into longer Overwatch series, you can have one team come out stronger than expected, and then they usually keep that going forward the entire series. You can have one team coming out weaker than expected, and you can have them level up their performance over the course. What made this truly baffling is that if you were to look at the teams and erase the player names, you wouldn't think that the teams had actually swapped between maps 1 and 2 and then the remainder, where it was very strange in that LG Loyal, they were executing very well in the beginning, fell off horribly in the maps 3 and 4, and for Immortals, they started out very weak and then finished strong. It was just, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in Overwatch.
I've never seen him that confused either, and I completely understand it. This was a baffling thing. This is not our first rodeo, not our first set of Overwatch, but you're absolutely right. You take away the team names, you're like, wow, that team 5-0'd the other team really hard. That was crazy how they did, because it was a complete reverse. Of course, Ube, for as great as he played in the first 2 maps, Hollywood was a disaster for Ube across the board. He got picked off very early several times in those fights, and even on different heroes, it was almost a comedy of errors. He got pulse bombed on Genji in his spawn, and later pulse bombed on Roadhog in the spawn. Came to life a little bit towards the end there, but he was dying very early in a lot of these engagements. I don't know, but it's the same problem with LG Loyal forever. They can't close things out. They were so close, had everything going for them. Then Control didn't go their way, but it wasn't that bad. You thought they could still come back, and then it just seemed like they fell apart, and the coordination on the dives seems to weaken throughout the night.
Well, and to throw extra fuel onto fire, you take a look at Spree, who came in very strong, very excellent play on maps 1 and 2. Everyone was well coordinated. Pluke was with him every time when they ran anything diving. And then you look at Dorado, where suddenly on Pharah, he's falling off into pits on his own. Pluke is off freelancing. I don't understand because I want to praise both teams very much so for when they were doing well. And you take a look at Immortals, they finished out strong.
Right.
Grim had a much better finish. He wasn't flanking anywhere near as hard. For the most part, he still had his moments, but he was much more consistent. But then you look at the first two maps and he was non-existent. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want to talk about, well, what did we learn from this match? And I feel like there's really not much. It's very hard to draw anything from this. I will have to go rewatch the VODs because going into the future of these teams, it is hard to really pull anything out as of right now. Did you have a thing?
It is a worse look for Immortals, though, because LG Loyal has done this before, and I think the expectations are lower for Loyal. They had the chance to surprise a lot of people, and I would have completely changed my mind a little bit, you know, barring another performance from LG Loyal, had they gone 3-0, and they were on the verge of it in the dominating fashion they were. But for Immortals, all it says about Immortals is that they're extremely inconsistent right now, and it looked like they had righted the ship. It looked like they'd gotten the train back on the tracks over the last several days, and now I don't know what to think. Maybe they just came out slow, but again, it's a giant question mark over Immortals, who have a lot more at stake right now.
Yeah, the one thing we do know coming out of this matchup is that Immortals has secured their spot in the playoffs with that victory, and they put one more nail in the Team Liquid coffin. Now Complexity is the only option for Liquid to get in, and it's even more of an uphill battle. I'm not even going to pretend like they have a good chance. Technically, they have a mathematical chance, but it's going to be really low. And that said, we do have more Overwatch yet to be played tonight. And the only final thing I want to ask you, Hex, is how many followers do you think you could get? Or would you need to get that tattoo of Grim Reality?
I'm not going to get a tattoo.
Okay. Anyway,
I don't want to get people's hopes up. Right?
I almost
I'm a
forgot to bring
person.
that up. Okay, and maybe we'll get some discussion on Twitter about this, and we'll see if we can make that happen in the near future. But either way, we've got one more matchup, and it is going to be. I mean, if this one was confusing, I never know what to expect. But no matter what, the results of this match are going to be very important because it's Renegades versus LG Evil, and a lot is riding on this one for playoff contention. And we're going to have some fun times with this next one after a short break. And as we're going into break, we are going to be showing you the play that you, the fans, have selected as the play of the game. And make sure you are following us on Twitter and keeping an eye out for that because we're going to be doing it even more over the next couple of days. Let's take it to a break, and we'll be back for more Overwatch.
Gonna make you feel better.
Don't move. Not fast enough. Who's got that hot hand?
Look at the front end, and a sleep dart sets it up. That is beautiful. Hedan, sleep dart from the back, opening. Grim was very good in this situation last time.
Oh, beautiful. Finds Ube, who was going to be a problem for him. Dispatches him early.
It is a hail of blue and red. Everyone breaking down, but Joldies is the one to break this wide open. Here comes Ube. Nano play to play. The barrage in from Joldies takes out 2, now 3. Ike is going to go down. There won't be a defensive. The crowd time came out right before he died. It was a little bit forced, and Ube going to get 3 in the back line instead.